Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
It's Tuesday, which means it's time to submit to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight is my co-host, Caffeinated Wolf.
Hey, what is going on, Jeff? Hail to you, chat. Welcome back once again to the best, and I mean the best, Tuesday night show in this space every single week at 8 p.m. Central. Hail to the High Council. Let's do it.
Hail to you, my friend.
Hail to you.
And let's say hello and hail to our third man, the Hulk Hogan of this trio, Mr. Script Doctor.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that honor. I'm very happy to be here. It's been an interesting day today. Been quite busy. Lots of interesting news, especially this whole Rachel Zegler stuff.
Yeah, we are going to talk about that in just a moment. Now, folks, make sure you hit that thumbs up button to let us know that you enjoy this content, but mostly to let YouTube know that you enjoy this content. We got a copy strike before we even uploaded a video because we made fun of Taylor Swift in a clip. So YouTube's always looking to take somebody down, but you can't keep a good man down, or you can't keep multiple good people down here on the WCBS channel. So, folks, hit that thumbs up button, and we're about to dive into tonight's show.
That should be an easy one to dispute because you can say, I've never dated Taylor Swift. What the heck's going on here?
Shit, I would just want it for the notoriety. It's like, yeah, that song on their 17th album, that one's about me.
Yep, that one's about me right there.
I joked the other day that her latest album will be called Body Count, and it'll have like 7
Oh,
tracks.
my God. There has got to be something actually wrong with that woman because she's talented. She seems like she has to be some level of business savvy, right? In order to have the success that she has. And she's cute, but holy shit, she runs through men like somebody who just ate Taco Bell runs through toilet paper.
Very disposable. I mean, her father bought the label that signed her. Bought the label and then signed her. So, I mean, she's definitely got some good connections in her family to maintain her success, but she's also proven to be quite creative when it comes to lyrics and how she lays out her shows. So, I mean, her fan base is very stable, and that's a good thing for a performing artist.
Well, 2023 is the year of the, I guess, female-centric entertainment, and hopefully Hollywood stops trying to morph other established things. It's like, look, folks, you got Taylor Swift, you got the Barbie movie, all these things this year go to show you that men and women like different forms of entertainment. And there are crossover pieces of entertainment, and there's stuff for men and women, and it doesn't need to be all in the one. So hopefully, this is the year where those things make a bunch of money, and they stop trying to change everything. Or be prepared for the all-female remake of, I don't know, 12 Angry Men. That'll be interesting, right?
That would be interesting. I'd rather see a deliberate, known, advertised parody of Cheers for Star Wars called Jabba's Palace. Like, it's definitely not canon. It's just making fun of what the daily life is working at Jabba's Palace. You got the dancer girls, you got the various bands that come in, and you got wondering who's Jabba going to kill by sending to the Sarlacc this week, or to the the Rancor this week.
By the end of the miniseries, there's nobody left alive except for Jabba himself.
Exactly.
Can we keep George Wendt as Jabba the Hutt?
He'd do a good voice for Jabba the Hutt.
I like George Wendt. I always think of him as Fat Sam and Fletch, one of my all-time favorite movies.
And then you get another Protocol droid that's Cliff Clavin, Ratzenberger, just saying random stuff.
I could get down for that. Who would Ted Danson play? Would he be like the that torture droid, EV-99?
Maybe, yeah. Could be. Carla would be oh crap, what is it? Salacious Crumb.
Oh God, I hate that thing. I wanted to kick it to the Rancor.
Well, it's dead, so you don't have to feel too bad. Because remember, it was on the sail barge, and the sail barge blew up, so that thing is toast. I know it's a morbid way to start the show, but press 1 in the chat if you care about Salacious Crumb's death, or press 2 if you're happy about his death. I'm going to put a 2 right now, because that little rat monkey creature was weird. And that lamp was
he
annoying as
attacked
shit.
C-3PO, and he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve his eye getting pecked out.
I mean, it's C-3PO. He's kind of obnoxious.
There's a lot of obnoxious things that you can do to C-3PO. Pecking out his eye, that's a little much.
Did you see in the documentary that actually caused Anthony Daniels to have a panic attack?
I can
Are
believe
you
it.
serious?
Yeah, that's real. That's not a joke.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is this a puppet?
That's, yeah. Gosh. Weak bloodline, man.
Speaking of Lucasfilm celebrities, over the weekend I worked a con. I didn't get to meet Jim Lee, sadly, because I had that much traction at the table, but I did get to meet Julian Glover, the actor who played General Veers and Eri Christados in James Bond and Walter Donovan in The Last Crusade. That was
nice.
cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
he was really fun. He was... The show had ended. I'm unloading my stuff and leaving to go leave for the weekend. I was happy. And there he is, just at his table, like, packing up, and I went over and said hey to him and talked for a moment. It was cool. So thank you to Julian Glover. Shout out to you, my favorite bad guy who's been in Bond, Star Wars, and Indy. I can't think of another actor who's had better crossover in a decade. Like, he hit all the big franchises that decade. So can you guys
I
think
don't
of
think
another
you.
one?
I don't think you topped that. I don't think you can top that.
No. Folks in the chat, if you can top that, let us know of another actor who's had a better decade of playing bad guys. I'll wait. Now, guys, tonight we're going to talk about 2 things, among other things that'll pop up organically. But script in the beginning, I actually had a separate question. Now, this is obviously for you too, Andrew. And then we're going to talk about Rachel Zegler fired from Snow White. There's an article that's popped up. There's some... I won't even call it evidence, because it's just bullshit. There's a website trying to say that, oh, the toys don't really look like Rachel Zegler. She's been fired. I hate to break it to that website, but if you know anything about collecting like I do, check out our videos, you know that Mattel doesn't get the likenesses down intentionally. Go look at the Margot Robbie Barbie doll. Doesn't look like Margot Robbie. It looks like a Barbie doll hybrid. They use the same parts intentionally. All their toys look the same. But it's not like I know what I'm talking about. It is cutting corners. There's
And also,
no doubt about
don't
that.
they get to circumvent having to pay for the likeness as well that way?
No, I think
If they can't negotiate it, yeah.
there's a lot of that, though, is like lumped in. If you have the official like Disney Snow White, that's all in the in the license thing. Because I see a lot of people try to make that excuse for the McFarlane Batman stuff. They go, well, they don't really have the likeness rights to the actors. Yes, they do. They just have shitty sculpts. And a lot of people try to talk themselves into, oh, they don't have the likeness rights. That's why this toy looks bad.
McFarlane, as much as I absolutely love McFarlane's DC line, for certain figures, especially like his Batman and his Superman, he reuses sculpts.
Oh, yeah, and the stuff that he makes new for, like, the Michael Keaton figures, they look like shit. I've seen these guys like, I bought the $126 six-pack just to get the Michael Keaton figure because I couldn't get the Batmobile. It's like, your toy looks like shit. You should have paid... Never mind. I'm not going to get into that tangent. Believe me, I had a wonderful weekend at the con. I sold all but 1 copy of Stealing Solo. People were interested in the Phantom Menace edition.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Honestly, here's the best part for me. I had so many people, adults and kids, keep pointing to the Wokebusters logo. So many people asked me about it. So I have a new pitch. Everyone's excited by the pitch. Hell, I'm so inspired I did 2 pages alone today. So folks, like I told you, Wokebusters will be out for con season next year. It'll be out to our backers. You can get it on Indiegogo now and have it shipped directly to you. And I'm going to relaunch it with all sorts of new things. I even contacted a company who does cutouts. So while there will be no Stay Woke Trigglypuff Man action figure, you can get the desk cutout coming soon. So be on the lookout from everything from me, Jeff Hicks, here on World Class Bullshitters. So hit that thumbs up button and let's start talking about what's on screen. But first, the word of the day comes from Shrebels08, who says the word of the day is taco. I like this one. Brown Taco and the Lazy 7 Communists. Debbie Does Tacos. Star Wars, The Rise of Ray's Taco, and Hot Tub Taco Machine.
Oh, fistful of tacos. Got to go with that.
Taco
That sounds
burns
like a
red.
The Hunt for Red Taco. The Hunt for Red
I was about to do
Toctober.
that one as well. You beat me to it. I was going to do that one too.
We are in present taco.
Honey, I Shrunk the Tacos.
The Amazing Taco Man.
It's pretty acceptable.
Would I get
Taco?
canceled if I made that action figure or that comic book?
The Amazing
think so,
Taco
no.
Man? Dude, you get canceled for anything these days. Just don't fucking care. Just make it.
You know I don't give a shit about that stuff.
That's the way to do it. Just make the shit.
The girl with the taco tattoo.
Ah, there you go. The Taco
Actually, I
Wit
bet you could probably
Chronicles.
find a lot of girls like that.
Oh, wow, no. Taco Busters.
Big Trouble in Little Taco.
Wow. That never mind. That I'm keeping.
Well,
nope.
don't go the other way, because
I'm keeping that to myself.
that would be offensive. The Taco and the Furious, you know?
Lord
Yeah.
of Tacos.
Ooh, I like Lord of the Tacos.
Ooh, it's Taco Bird. That's a good one.
I think so too. Shout out to D Pensack, one of our nicest listeners out there. I've actually run into quite a few people when I'm out filming the toy videos, and well, D Pensack, you were one of those. Nice. So, folks, be on the lookout. We're going to have a Halloween-themed toy video coming up, and I'm also hitting retail because here's the news: Marvel and Star Wars have been clearanced at Target. It's not like there's a holiday right now. They're just trying to get shit off the shelves because it hasn't moved. The overpriced Marvel Legends, that 60th anniversary collection that Hasbro thought every collector was going to rush out to buy, they didn't.
And didn't.
No one's going to pay $60 for an Incredible Hulk Bruce Banner 2-pack.
Hell
I know
no.
times are tough, but not for Hasbro. They're a billion-dollar company, so they're going to be okay.
Yeah, they'll be fine, but nobody's buying that shit. Nobody wants that.
Now, allow me to do one thing real quick before we start. I'm going to take a show note and a timestamp so I can know exactly when we're talking about this. So the man on screen in front of you, folks, is Martin Scorsese. I shouldn't have to tell you that if you're a fan of film, because you'll definitely know Martin Scorsese's work. Now, Martin Scorsese has been around for quite a long time. He's had a 50-plus year career, and he's one of the all-time greats. But as of late, Martin Scorsese has been in the press, not for his work, not for his connection with Leonardo DiCaprio, but for his comments on superhero movies and comic book movie culture. And a few months ago, maybe even over a year ago at this point, Mr. Marty Scorsese had a lot of interesting things to say, and now he's back in the press again to make the same points about how people need to step away from comic book movie culture by supporting directors like Christopher Nolan, and this is his push to save cinema.
Christopher Nolan, who did the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, his biggest films are all comic book films.
Yeah, the self-defeating point.
Films with a comic book veneer.
Right? Yeah. Let's be. Thank you, script. They're, the first two good movies, but Batman movies not as much. I don't know if you had more to say, Jeff, but I got to jump in here real quick.
Please do.
I can respect Martin Scorsese's opinion to a degree here because he is a very accomplished director and writer. He understands film at a very deep level. However, the timing and the way that he's been going about this criticism of comic book films, which, to be fair, I'm freaking sick of basically at this point as well, because they've all been trashed. If they'd been all freaking bangers every time still, then I wouldn't be saying this. It comes across as petty, and it comes across as, well, let's be real here, man. Your movies don't make as much as these do, and nobody talks about them as much. They might be better films, at least on a writing level, a character level, and all of that. But it's always annoyed me when some of these, like, auteur type directors criticize that which is making more money than they are. There are plenty of criticisms you can levy at the comic book film industry, a lot, especially right now, especially the last several years, really. And even a little bit before that, there were some that were a little bit cookie cutter in the Marvel, first couple of phases of the MCU. But they were still generally fun films. They were well received, and people had a good time at the theater. And that's kind of the freaking point. And it just kind of annoys me that he comes across more as just it's sour grapes. Like, you just, like, I understand your point. I even agree with it to a point. But at the same time, you're kind of coming across as just a little salty.
I agree. Script, what do you think of this?
Well, I read the interview, and I was quite fascinated by this because he wasn't really blaming so much as comic book movies, but the fact that the studios were producing so many, and the fact that the comic book movie itself has actually lost what makes it part of cinema. That's what he was worried about, because he was worried that one day we'll have a whole generation where all they'll think of movies are superhero movies. And the interviewer said, well, I think that might be the case right now. It's like, well, let's take a look at our general analyzing of Hollywood. We do talk about how Hollywood puts out a lot of woke content, but in recent months, I've been pointing out, well, it's really just the one studio putting out the woke content. It's kind of diminished exponentially through all the others. But that's in line, that therein lies the problem, is the fact that when one product is constantly being put out over and over again and it's getting the most exposure to the audience, it definitely conflates the perspective of what the actual medium is. And when it comes to film, Martin Scorsese is not wrong with the fact that it's a paint by numbers approach to the comic book films, but he's more worried the fact that the studios were getting so much and supporting it and pushing it so heavily to the point where the actual canvas of what movies are has been blurred and leaning heavy over onto one genre, where you don't get movies like Shawshank Redemption or Taxi Driver or King of Comedy or Schindler's List or Capote or any of those types of films that are not necessarily franchise driven movies, but just movies that are kind of stories, one-offs, things that have a personal connection between not just the filmmaker, but also to the audience. And it doesn't matter that the superhero movies perform well. They're tentpole movies. They're designed to try and do that. But what he's just saying is, like, you can't appreciate the superhero movie if there's nothing else as well to enrich yourself outside of it. And he was commenting here as how, why are the studios not backing more lower budget films that talk, like, I love the movie A League of Their Own. I would be great if we got more movies about a scrappy underdog sports team trying to, win a local championship and what it means to actually work hard and succeed in something. We don't get those types of stories because some of the studio execs, in fact, a lot of the ones that are causing the problems we're facing right now, don't see that as a valuable story to tell, because it's new, it's high risk, and it's not going to generate $1 billion at the box office because it's not another IP that's easy to sell. It's basically, we have not just a generation of the audience that potentially might be disinterested in hard work. We also have a generation of studio execs and by and large filmmakers and writers as well that don't want to put in the work either. And so we're feeding each other the same drivel to the point where we're not going to get someone as amazing as a Steven Spielberg or a Martin Scorsese or a Francis Ford Coppola or Joe Dante or Christopher Nolan for a very long time, because it's no longer about what they can bring to the film entertainment industry. It's about what can we get someone who will work for pennies to adapt for us. And that's the very dangerous aspect of our entertainment, because if our entertainment no longer has any value to us, then our lives are just going to be focused on our work and trying to get as much joy out of the family as we can until eventually, kids grow up, they move out, then you're empty nesters. And what do you have? Well, you can go back and watch all the old backlog catalog things, which is great. But with the diminishing investment in physical media, the only way you're going to have access to those is through streaming. And if those streaming channels decide, hey, we're not going to do the backlog stuff because nobody's watching our current stuff, you're now being force-fed content that's not going to enrich your life the same way that an All in the Family would back in the day, or a Hogan's Heroes, or a MASH, or a Cheers, stuff that actually, or Barney Miller, shows that actually had fun.
Full
with
House.
conflict.
I will not hear disrespect to Uncle Jesse.
Well, okay, fair enough. I've actually never seen Full House. In fact, the
You're
girlfriend
not missing out on anything at this
the girlfriend I had before this dumped me because I made a joke how, because I haven't seen it, I guess we have to break up, because she was a huge Full House fan and she wanted to watch the Netflix Full House thing. And she took my joke literally, and I ended up breaking up. But then I got my current girlfriend for almost 4 years now. So I think I
worked out in your favor.
Yeah. Now, I don't disagree with Scorsese. I'm more along the lines with you, Script. But Andrew, we're all kind of saying the same thing. I want more cinema than comic book movies. I've almost reached the point where, like, all of my wishes and dreams of comic book movies have been fulfilled. I've seen the best Spider-Man movie. I've seen great Batman. I've seen wonderful Superman. I've lived through all this great stuff. This was the golden age of comic book superhero films. But all ages come to an end, And I don't like the glut of what we have right now. I want other pieces of entertainment because I feel like we're stuck culturally. We're just frozen in time. I've made this point many times before where ever since the iPhone came out, it's like phones all look the same, cars look the same, clothing looks the same. You could look at a picture from 10 years ago and you might not know what year it is, but if you look at photos from 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even to go back to the 40s, actually
You know what
every decade of the
you're talking about,
1900s, you know it's a different decade. Styles, times, ideas change. The art, the cinema, the music, it's all different. I was listening to a song that I was listening to in college the other day. I walked up to the store and I decided, I'm going to play something from the past because I'm going up to the Michigan game coming up around my birthday. And I thought, I'm going to, relive some old memories. And then newer music came on and I thought to myself, this all sounds the same as 10 years ago, like this push to electronic music. Now, I'm not an old man yelling at a cloud, but what I am saying is I want stuff to be vastly different over a decade later. Nothing changes. And I think Scorsese's right here when you talk about how you have a generation of people that have grown up thinking that comic book movies are the only movies that are out there.
That's a big problem.
Ones.
That's a huge problem. Because I liked it better when comic book movies felt like an event, not it's just for me it was a Tuesday, right? That's basically what it's become.
All right, M. Bison.
But that's what it's become at this point. It feels like there's a new one coming out, not literally every month, but it's every handful of months. And yes, it would be a little different if all of them were still really good, but at the same time, how do you maintain that forever? You don't. At some point, you have to understand, okay, there might be oversaturation, even of a good thing. Like, I'll take the comic book industry, for example. The X-Men books or the Spider-Man books. You got 85 of them, different titles going on at the same time in the same fucking month. It's too much. It's too much to keep up with. And people don't want to do that. General audiences sure as hell don't want to do that. They're lazy. So I'd rather, there be a drastic reduction, well, at this point, almost an elimination entirely, of the big budget comic book movies, and instead have those release a little more sporadically, a little bit more time in between them, and have them feel like an event again. Have them feel like it's an actual big deal that I should give a shit about. And in between all of that, you have more of your artistic stuff, your low budget stuff, your historical dramas, your stuff like, your Hacksaw Ridge, your Fury, your, Saving Private Ryan, those types of films, or, your spy thrillers, things like that, can do good money, but, their budget isn't quite as insane because they're not spending as much on CGI. Well, I would just like to see a lot more come out because right now there's nothing basically that I'm interested in seeing in theaters at this point.
I'm going to see The Creator. I want to see a couple other movies that are coming out. But on the whole, this has been a pretty bad year for movies. And this is weird for me to say that because if you were listening to the show at the beginning of the year, I was saying, well, 2023 is a pretty solid year for movies. We have different stuff. I've seen some good movies. For example, I saw Cocaine Bear, Super Mario, John Wick 4, Operation Fortune, which is one of my favorite movies of the year. And then you get the Guardians, and that's fine. Shazam really wasn't very good. The Flash was terrible. Indiana Jones, well, that's not a superhero movie, but I think overall, I wish Scorsese...
It was still a big budget attempted blockbuster is what it was.
Well, and that's what I'm tired of. More so than just superhero movies, I'm tired of these big budget blockbusters that have no soul, that have no originality. I know you might look at something like Oppenheimer as a big budget blockbuster, but I don't. What was that budget? $90 million?
One of the lowest that Nolan has done in a very long time. And to your point, I would say any movie that's trying to be over $100 million has got what I like to call small dick energy. Clearly you don't have the package to impress, so you have to start directing them to your wallet.
Yeah.
And that's bad. That's bad marketing. And the other part too, it also shows that you don't have any discipline. I mean, if you're a filmmaker, you need to be planning and knowing exactly what it is you're shooting, how you're shooting, and why you're shooting it. And what we're seeing now with these larger budgets is kind of an improvisational type of take to production, where it's like, well, we have a script. It's 200 pages, which is 80 pages above the maximum, really. And we're going to shoot
so it's a
all
Snyder
of it.
script.
Yeah, we're going to shoot all of it, and then we're going to make it into a movie in the editing room with digital effects, post effects, looping, all that other stuff. To the point where it's like, if you don't have a vision going in, what do you think you're going to have coming out?
When you do that, you're starting from behind. You're playing from behind already. If you shot
Yes.
4.5 hours worth of film and they're like, oh, well, we'll fix it in post, we'll cut it up. You are spending money to do all that. You spent all the money to shoot 4.5 hours worth of movie. And you're spending all the money to cut that much down, like down to a freaking digestible length for general audiences. And you are cutting into your movie's potential return right from Jump Street. When you write a script that's that freaking long. Like, I'm sorry, unless you're Lord of the Rings, make it shorter.
Well, Lord of the Rings is a different beast because that story is refined and complete, essentially.
It's really trimmed down. It's really trimmed down.
Well, Tolkien did the work, right? So then it was basically up to Peter Jackson to say, like, okay, he did the work. We know where we're going. We know what works because the audience has spoken for the last few decades. All we have to do is match that as best as we possibly can, and we should be in good standing. Now, contrast that with something like Marvel, where they're saying, well, we do have these comic books, but instead of us drawing stuff from, the 60s and 70s and 80s, when Marvel really did take some interesting risks, we're going to skip all the way to the early to mid 90s, and then we're going to skip again to the current era. And even though the audience isn't there, we don't actually have any real time to dwell on those types of stories and what they actually meant to the characters. We're just going to kind of lackadaisically adapt them and throw it out there. And because the Marvel brand has been so reliable between 2008 and 2016, the audience will just eat it all up. And that is where you go wrong. Because when you're creating an original story, you're trying to create things personal to not just you as a filmmaker, but also something that you hope will make a connection with the audience. And you also have to prioritize what's important and what isn't. And when you're doing adaptations and you're giving pretty much a blank check, you don't care about what's important because you can pay for it. And that's the big problem. You cannot have a blank check with films. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm, as much as I enjoyed the potential of Christopher Nolan, I don't always like him because for many years after The Dark Knight, he was given a blank check. And he gave us movies that had cool concepts, weak and weird executions, and a lot of front-loaded exposition to the point where he was smelling his own farts. And the audience was taking a very long time to try and figure out what that was.
Isn't that what Tenet was, from what I heard?
That's what I was about to say.
I hadn't
was
seen it.
for a lot of people.
The last one of his movies that I saw. Okay, because the last movie I saw of his was Inception. I was like, okay, well, this was entertaining, kind of. I like Leo. I really love Joseph Gordon-Levitt as an actor. Mm-hmm. I really like Tom Hardy. I already forgot what's her bitch that decided to become a dude.
Ellen Page.
She was about as forgettable as she is in everything else. But other than that, I was like, okay, because people were coming out of that movie theater and for like a month afterwards talking about how it was the most mind-blowing, deep thing. I'm like,
I liked it when it came out.
Are y'all's brains like as shallow as the kiddie pool? Like, it was an interesting film for sure. I liked the concept, but like the end result, even though I enjoyed it, I was like, okay, this was fun. I'm glad I saw it, but y'all are giving this movie a little too much credit.
All Inception really was just a well-made action movie with a fun twist. Mm-hmm. It's as deep as something like Total Recall or The Running Man. I'll just use Total Recall as an example because Total Recall makes you think: is it real? Is it in his brain? There's commentary. There's things to discuss. I think the beauty of Inception is its visuals, not necessarily its concept.
Visually, it was stunning.
Within a dream, and that's where I think Christopher Nolan lives very comfortably. But coming off The Dark Knight, everyone was praising the guy. Oh, he reinvented the comic book movie. He changed cinema. He did this. He did that. I like his movies for the most part. Oppenheimer's my favorite movie this year. The only one of his that I saw. Okay, let me rephrase that. The only two movies of his I've seen in theaters that I did not like were Tenet and Dark Knight Rises. And I didn't see Tenet in theater, excuse me, because nobody did. That was fucking during the pandemic. But my point is, of his movies, that was it. I like Dunkirk. I like Memento.
Dunkirk is a very good movie.
Memento and The Prestige are some of his better films because he was doing what a filmmaker should do, which is being disciplined.
Well, The Prestige is also that was a low budget film. That came out in what, early 2000s?
I think it came out right after he did Batman Begins.
Yeah, that was a fairly low budget movie, wasn't that? I liked
Great
that
cast. It had Bale,
one. Yeah,
Jackman, Scarlett Johansson, Michael Caine.
yeah. I think the
Too many.
entire budget basically went to the paying the actors rather than much else.
Probably.
And real quick, let's use that cast as a point to look at Scorsese's comment about how an entire generation of people only know comic book movies. You could jokingly say it had Batman, Wolverine, Black Widow, and Alfred. Like, even the big actors, they're all tied into these superhero films. And I'm a comic book artist. I love this shit. As a kid, I always wanted to see all these heroes on film. I used to listen to Stan Lee talk. One day we're gonna have the X-Men on film and the Fantastic Four and all that. And it's been here, and it's awesome. And then it stopped being awesome because
Except for every instance of the Fantastic Four on film.
Yes, You know what? I think the best Fantastic Four film is the
first
old
one.
Roger Corman one
Yeah,
from
the Roger
'94.
Corman one.
It got the tone of the Fantastic Four correct.
You're never going to see it happen again.
It did.
No,
It was basically a bad gimmick in order to retain the rights, and it was egregious because the cast actually cared about what they were doing, which you don't get that often, especially in the '90s.
Did you know that the guy that plays the Human Torch in that is the boyfriend and Uncle Buck? Bug.
Yeah, he's Bug.
I love that so much. Uncle Buck's just a great movie. Anyway, my point though is I agree with the Scorsese stuff. I want to see films be more diverse, and I don't need a diverse filmmaker voice. I just need a variety of films because I will lump comic book movies in with homogenized, big budget crap films that cash in on name value. That's my complaint right here.
Yeah.
Recognizable IP films like any superhero movie or Gran Turismo. That shit is a flop and a half. It's already out on digital. I saw a commercial last night during the football game. It's like, hey, you can get Gran Turismo at home now. Nobody
that
went and
come
saw
out
the
like 3
fucking
weeks
thing in
ago?
theaters. Yes. Nobody went to see that movie. It was a dumb concept from bad creative. And there's so many of these things because studios assume I'm going to cash in on something recognizable and the audience is going to show up. I think it works on television. Something like Twisted Metal, 2 thumbs up. That was fun and different. But Gran
Still have to see
Turismo,
that.
boring and stupid.
I heard it was actually pretty all right.
That's the kind of stuff I want to see. Is if you're going to take something recognizable, either amp it up to 11, where it's like balls to the wall crazy, or do something that's never been done with it. But just kind of making your same generic racing drama based on a true story, hard luck, tough love, you'll never make it. Look, we've already peaked with the human triumph story in the 70s with Rocky. I'm still, for my money, not a better underdog story has ever been put on film.
You've had some other good ones, but yeah, you're not going to beat the first Rocky. This is not going to happen.
Yeah, I love Rocky. It's, to this day, whenever I hear that music, I'm like, shit, I can go the distance. I want to go push myself even further. Rocky's not only a good film, but it's motivational and inspirational.
I also
Cinderella
like to
Man
think
was
that-
good.
I also think Rocky is secretly a spin-off of The Godfather because Mary went under hiding and then married Rocky, and then she didn't die. She just faked her death so she could go back to the family.
I'm going to make that lore now. That's officially canon here on this channel.
That's going to be for your parody book, Rocky parody book. That's what's gonna happen.
What I should do is write
It's going to be a mafia book.
I could do a mob comic. I don't draw a lot of guns. I'd have to really take my time to draw the weaponry, but other than that, it wouldn't be a problem. You could have fun with the costuming. But I digress. I'd like to do a period
you could make
piece,
it you could even make it a layered parody, and the mafia guys don't even use real guns. They got like fucking Nerf
Fish.
or Super Soaker or some bullshit. Just make it as like egregiously parody as possible.
Well, I've been having fun with Wokebusters, so you never... Well, actually, I do know what's next, but I never know what I could be doing in the future. There's really nothing, there's no bounds. And I'm just laughing at Miss Ninja Julian, who's quoting Eddie Murphy raw. I don't want to get off on that tangent because we'll be out there all night talking about Eddie Murphy. But in terms of Scorsese, is there anything else you guys want to comment on? Because I just want movies to be unique. I've been on record. There's also now books published. I've been saying this for about 11 years. 1999 is the best year for film. Mm-hmm. Hands down. You pull up the top films in 1999, you're pulling up some of the best films ever made. 1999 saw no comic book movies. I'm just questioning that because X-Men was 2000, Batman and Robin was 97, Blade was 98. I don't think you had a single comic book movie.
No, because the first Spider-Man was until what, 03?
Two.
Two? Was it two?
That's
Right. That's right. It was because it was a year after X-Men.
That might be a good year for movies that didn't have a superhero in it, because like 82 and 84 were great years for movies, but both of them I think had a superhero film. I think Superman. No, actually 82 didn't have a superhero film. 84 did with Supergirl.
Oh.
But 82 had a lot of good movies.
Hey, she was still cute as shit. I don't want to hear it.
No, like Supergirl, yeah,
She's beautiful. I'm not going to
she's
deny
beautiful.
that at all.
A good movie
it
is
really
not.
Good cast. They just didn't. They needed more work before they should have gone to production. That's the Salkins being greedy, really.
Are you glad we're out of the age with the foreign producer who comes in and buys up the rights and doesn't really know what he's doing? Because you had the Salkinds, you had Golan and Globus, you had the Akkads with Halloween. It's nothing to do with like xenophobia or anything stupid like that. It's just you get people who buy up shit who don't really understand it, and they do everything as cheaply as possible, and then they end up killing their own creations, like the Salkinds. Superman 1 is a fucking wonderful movie. Superman 2 is pretty damn good. Then 3 is 3 and 4 is shit, but that went to Golan and Globus. But my point is, like, a lot of the decisions made, let's just use Canon for a better example.
Yeah.
Their movies are the way they are is because they ran out of money, and they created so much crap. Like, you may be nostalgic for Masters of the Universe or some of the other Canon pictures, but Masters of the Universe, they didn't even know that they were going to be able to shoot the ending scene. They had to beg the people, the crew, to stay on to help them film all of that final fight between He-Man and Skeletor in a short period of time.
That the director, I think, had to pay for out of pocket.
Yeah, and it wasn't cheap either.
No. Well, yeah, I'm glad that, I mean, there are still foreign entities that do buy various film rights and book rights, which is probably why we haven't seen certain adaptations of some classical characters out there yet. But I am glad that and when it comes to some intellectual IPs of some cool franchises, like, say, for instance, Flash Gordon, I'm glad that there's people who have the rights that are trying to do it. We also know, if you're a Robert E. Howard fan, they're trying to get Conan off the ground, but as like a mini series. So adaptations of the classic Robert E. Howard stories being given a live action treatment in like a House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones level budget thing. I know that's what's been pushed around. Netflix had it for a bit, and then because Netflix is Netflix, the rights holder said, "Screw you guys! I'm taking this to someone who can make it right." And that's a good sign. And I hope we start getting more of that recently. I will say, to Scorsese's point, there is a model that has existed for nearly 40 years that is very reliable when it comes to genre filmmaking. That is the horror genre. We have never once heard in the trades or any entertainment medium, man, there's a lot of horror fatigue out there. Mm-hmm. You don't hear it because, by and large, horror is oversaturated in the market. They average between 80 and 100 original horror movies a day, because anyone who works in independent film or wants to get their foot in the door makes a horror film of some kind. Mm-hmm. And that eventually gets out because people love the idea of being scared in the theater. They're great for date nights because when your girlfriend gets scared, she also gets aroused, and you're there to protect her. And there you go. You got,
and then she gets more aroused
the rest of the night. But one of the things that's brilliant about horror films is that rarely can you find an example of a horror film with a budget of $120 million or more. They usually stick to a lower budget thing because they know, number one, it's kind of a niche audience. It's a big niche audience, but it's a niche audience. And number two, you can take a lot of risks with horror. So when you're taking a lot of risks, you should be spending less, because if the risk pays off, we win big. And if the risk doesn't pay off, you at least lose less. And you can do that. There's a reason why when Marvel was in contracts with Paramount and they were going to produce Iron Man, they basically said, okay, we have to kind of keep it between $60 and $80 million. And our goal is to try and get $150 or $200 million globally at the box office. That was their goal. And they ended up, I think, getting 380 they overperformed by a good $100 million, which is why Disney got interested in Marvel in the first place. Their first low-risk character of Iron Man. Oh, if nobody sees an Iron Man movie, who cares? It's Iron Man. He's kind of a D-lister right now anyways. At least we get it out there. But it ended up working. And it basically stimulated them saying, okay, we know that Iron Man's working. We have already started production on Thor and Captain America. Let's start working on that. And while they were getting that in pre-production, they rushed in Iron Man 2. But they all kept it relatively as contained budgets as they possibly could. It wasn't until Disney got involved that the budget started going up. And the way that they justified it was that, well, these movies are really popular. In order to appease them, we have to raise the budget. I don't recall that ever really happening in horror film. I know the budgets for the Scream movies did increase a little bit in the 90s, but not to the level that we've seen when it comes to the superhero films on coming out of Disney, or especially with Warner Brothers after they did Man of Steel, spending $225 for Man of Steel, and then spending $280 for Batman v Superman, and then another $2 and change plus whatever Zack Snyder needed for his own cut for Justice League. Like, it just kept going up and up and up. And where was the risk? And where was the incentive? And where was the draw, right?
Well, I think you need. I mean, look at the horror genre where you have Blumhouse. That is like the premier horror.
Yeah.
Because I have a friend that works at Universal, and he's like, yeah, they pretty much let Jason Blum do whatever because he delivers $10 million movies that bring in so much money. It's a $10 million investment. Even Halloween, Michael Myers, probably the most recognizable horror villain of all time. It's up there. Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael Myers. You can debate who's a bigger name. Mm-hmm. But Halloween 2018 cost $10 million to make. It brought in $260 million. That's like the most expensive horror movie that they usually that's the limit that Blumhouse will do, and they cornered the market. They got their own brand of horror, and everybody goes and see those movies. The Conjuring ones, they're all just coming out, and they're making a bunch of money. And I think one of the reasons why horror, besides the emotional response, the stuff that you were talking about a moment ago, script, I think too that while horror has so many tropes or so many things, horror fans like to see familiar things reinvented in a different way. Like, for example, this Exorcist film coming out. I will go see that movie in theaters. I like The Exorcist. I think The Exorcist 2, The Heretic, is dog shit, but this one, looks pretty fun. And of course, it's going to be possessed demons and cursing and this and that, but it looks fun. And I know I'm going to go in and have a good time. I personally laugh at horror movies. I might be one of those crazy people you read about in these books. Like, if you laugh at horror movies, you might be disturbed. Then I'm disturbed because I laugh at all the kills. I think they're over the top and silly. I mean, I laugh. It's like, oh, don't go in the house. She's going to die. I start chuckling. I'm like, what an asshole. Like, I watch this movie X, and I'm like, these people are all stupid and deserve to die. And I laugh, and I enjoy the films, and I never burn out on horror. And I'm happy that horror has the place it does, and I'm happy that it keeps... Hollywood's always invested, and it's cool that horror movies are the gateway for some of these great directors like John Carpenter. Halloween is a great movie that really put his foot in the door. He brought us The Thing. He brought us Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from New York, They Live,
In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, dude, John Carpenter. I consider him the greatest living director right now. He's my favorite living director. Spielberg is the greatest living director, and probably Scorsese in terms of just their breadth of work.
John
and all
Carpenter
this stuff.
has a style that no one can replicate, but every time you see it, you're like, that is exactly what it should be. The only big misstep he made, I think, was in Ghost of Mars, and I still kind of enjoy that film.
That's the one that I know I've seen maybe twice, but I haven't watched it in so long.
It makes fun of matriarchies. I like that part. That was funny. Because Mars is a matriarchy in that movie.
Oh, how progressive.
But, I mean, the thing is, they fail. Like, they're a matriarchy overseeing some sort of excavation. It's a weird movie. It definitely has a lot of Carpenter-isms, but I think his heart wasn't in it for that film at that point. And I think that's why it didn't perform well. Because I still enjoy Escape from L.A., I think that's really cheeky and funny and works for what it is. I even liked Dark Star, the movie that he made before Halloween.
Oh, with the inflatable ball is the monster?
It's them versus I think the inflatable ball monsters in there, but it's him versus the onboard computer about to nuke itself, and he has to logic it. He's got an interesting voice. He likes to pay attention to the world. He has an affinity for Westerns, and he uses that type of lone hero archetype in his movies when he knows it's the most appropriate. Like McCready is clearly a cowboy. Same with Nick Plissken, both played, of course, by Kurt Russell.
He's the man.
And then then you go to Big Trouble in Little China, which again originally was supposed to be a period piece Western from the original writer, but the story just didn't work. And Carpenter got in there and he revamped it to modern day San Francisco. And he did what was called the secondary protagonist. Kurt Russell's not the star of that movie. His buddy is, Wu is. And he's the hero. And Kurt Russell is the sidekick. And it's great. And the way he does it, it works. And, you know, Egg Shen is just a really cool mentor. and it really has fun with folklore and simple problems. I just want to get my truck back. I just want to rescue my wife, you know? And it's a great movie. And anytime I meet a director that hasn't seen it, I want to smack them in the face, because how can you not want to see that movie? It has a lot of stunts in it and tropes that have been used over and over again since Big Trouble in Little China. Like, you know, the secret underground city that goes on forever. You see that a lot more in the 90s and 2000s now than you ever did before they did that.
The part that gets me every time in that movie is when he accidentally fires the submachine gun into the roof and the rock hits him in the head.
Like, just take him out of the fight for 2 minutes.
No, I love Kurt Russell, man. I mean, I can't say I wish he did more stuff, because he's a household name. He's at, you know, top of the A-list. He's been in everything you can imagine. So there's not much left that he could have done. I mean, hell, he's even been in Marvel movies. But I mean, any excuse to talk about Kurt Russell is a good excuse. Now, real quick, I did want to address the chat. The last Halloween movie sucked. I don't even like the 2018 remake.
Like Halloween Kills?
Yeah, dude, and Halloween Ends. Those are shit movies. I'm Halloween 1 all the way, then 2, then 3. And
it's the only one I've seen.
What, the 2018 one?
No, the original. Like,
I've only seen the original.
Of the three, like, classic, like, cult horror films, your Friday the 13th, your Halloween, and your Nightmare on Elm Street, I've only seen the originals of each of those.
Okay, so
I've actually never seen the Friday the 13th with Freddy in it.
You mean Jason?
Or just Jason, yeah.
I would recommend, if you're really feeling a horror movie, try Friday the 13th Part 6, because that's the one that's very self-aware, and it's like really dumb, like funny, because Jason gets stabbed through the heart by a stake, and then it gets struck by lightning. He comes back to life like Frankenstein's monster. He kills these guys, and then all of a sudden, after he kills them, the camera zooms in on his one good eye, and he does the James Bond gun barrel and turns and slashes his machete. It's so stupid.
Wow.
Oh, that's cringe.
It's hilariously bad. You gotta watch it though. But no, at least you don't know how the first Halloween gets followed up, because if you've only seen the first one, it ends on a cliffhanger, and the second one picks up directly after that cliffhanger. And while I think it's a solid movie, it's nowhere near as good or suspenseful. You don't need to show anything in these movies to make them good. It's the illusion. Your brain needs to think it saw something. Your brain needs to play the trick on you. And that's what's lost in a lot of movies in general. And I'm not just saying horror. It could be anything. Like, with Star Wars especially, they have told you every little story beat. You know everything that every character does every minute. And it kind of sucks, because sometimes you want to know... Sometimes you want to just imagine, well, what did Darth Vader do after he left the Battle of Yavin? How long was he in space? It's fun to debate. Well, a comic book that came out in 2013 answers that. It's like, okay, fine. And sometimes knowing too much is ruining it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other part too. So Alfred Hitchcock said, "Drama is life with the boring parts cut out," and it seems like the current producers and some of the current writers that are being hired by them have forgotten that lesson. Which is that we're gonna have Balin Skull and his apprentice stand on this plateau for 8 minutes in an episode, and they're gonna talk a little bit. But when we cut away from them and see what other people are doing and come back, they're still standing there. It's like, that is the most boring situation to put any of your talent in, let alone your characters. What the hell's wrong with you?
I have a real question for you. How much of that is the producers, and how much of that is society's current consuming habits? Because people watch the most mundane things for entertainment these days. People watch other people play video games. People watch TV shows where people, want to get married. People watch all of this, what I think is dumb crap. Where it's like, I'm not here to make excuses for Hollywood or any of their bad creative decisions, but you got to wonder if some of that comes from, surveying what most people consume. I mean, how much, look at a Facebook reel. It's just stupid shit. It's like somebody cooking a cheeseburger. How many times are you going to watch it? A lot of
Only
people,
Facebook
billions of
reels I find worth a damn are the ones where it's like somebody took this really cool camera shot of them underwater and you see, I don't know, whales or dolphins or
Oh no,
whatever, some shit. Like that's cool, but like otherwise, like a lot of this super low attention span, or rather more accurately, no attention span content is just, it's old, it's annoying, it's obnoxious.
It started in the late 90s with the DVD market because beforehand it was very expensive to make a movie and it was even more expensive to distribute it. But as soon as those expenses became affordable, everybody who could gather a couple of $1 million was putting out a movie. And in fact, the DVD market is the foundation for Asylum Films. And if anyone out there remembers their Blockbuster Video or any video store days, and you're seeing a movie cover that looks really cool and it looks similar to another movie that you saw in theaters not too long ago, and you're wondering, maybe this is it. Maybe it's out on DVD already. And you rent it and you take it home and you turn it on. And it looks like it's shot on a camcorder, and the acting is terrible. But it's got a lot of gratuitous nudity and blood, and you're like, you know what, this will do. And because you keep falling for that, you get conditioned for it, and it just grows exponentially. And then what ends up happening is when the audiences are conditioned for it, and you can see that they're conditioned for it, you yourself are like, well, if that's what I'm competing against, all I have to do is just a little bit better than that. And that's how you get stuff that happened on Warner Brothers and CW Network. That's why NBC started oversaturating with their Law and Order shows. That's why CBS and their own medical dramas kept them becoming derivative and overly formulaic, but the characters are kind of disinterested. I mean, when Fox came out with House MD, that blew up because it was actually way more investing of a show compared to anything else that was on there. That's why it was a hit show. That why it lasted, I think, 8 seasons. All it was Sherlock Holmes in a hospital. It was a very, very simple premise. But the thing is that they actually said, okay, if we're going to do a medical drama show, what's the best medical drama show that had ever been done in the last 30 years that people might remember? And let's see if we can top that. That's what happened when they did House. And that's the same thing also happened when they did Boston Legal. So the practice was kind of running it down. David E. Kelley was kind of giving up on it. He stumbled onto another character to spin off for Boston Legal. But when he was doing Boston Legal, he was like, okay, well, what other legal shows are like this that people remembered that were really good? And the one that he leaned on was Perry Mason. But then he's also like, but I'm doing this as a comedy. So what else could I take on to that? And so he was actually just looking around to try and find other great comedies that he remembered in his youth. And he's like, that's what I'm going to kind of inject here. And that's why Boston Legal with William Shatner and Candice Bergen lasted for, I think, 5 seasons. They did fairly well because they were not competing against the thing that people are watching today. They're thinking, I want to compete to be the best for this generation. Same thing happened with like Breaking Bad. How many like crime shows about doing something horrible for the sake of paying for something that is needed to help your family has been out there before? It's unheard of. But the idea was that we're going to do basically a buddy cop story, but it's buddy crooks. And what's the best buddy cop story? Lethal Weapon. Okay, we're going to invert that. Remember, the age difference between Murtaugh and Riggs is almost the same between Jesse and Walter White. It's just that teacher and student refers now to business partners. And one's kind of a wild guy and the other guy is kind of, disciplined and methodical. The formulas are all there. And this is why those shows kind of stood out. Sopranos was basically just saying, what if we did a modern day Godfather, essentially? It went kind of different than Godfather, obviously, but that was basically the starting point of the premise. We're not getting those types of things anymore where they're looking at, well, what is the best of this generation that we grew up with? And how can we do something that at our weakest is as good as that, and at our best might make people forget about that? And yes, it's a little bit of hubris to think of that. But if that's what you have driving for you, if you're shooting for the stars and you end up landing on the moon, that's a really good congeniality award, essentially.
I never really looked at it like that. Now when I go back and watch Breaking Bad reruns, that's how I'm going to think about it, because I loved that show. I think it goes into the Scorsese point again, though. It's all of the truly great stuff that's out there. Yes, it's few and far between. It's just, really, it's Disney and other companies that put out so much of their branded stuff, and they've cornered the market, they've ruined it. And personally, I just don't want to watch their shows. And the problem that it really does have on me, or the effect it does have on me, is I'll get turned off by a show like Ahsoka and then I'll just stop watching anything new, and so I'll revert back to my old familiar favorites, like a King of the Hill, like a you know, Back to the Future, something that I always love. So if anything, these modern day, the modern day glut of some of these things has just made me go backwards and consume my favorites over and over again and find new value in them. So I guess I should be thankful in a way, but at the same time, unlike my toy collecting habits, I'm already always ready for a new movie. You know, I can always
you
go
want your
watch something
comfort
else.
food. You want your comfort food, but at the same time, you also want to explore another story, another idea. I mean, I like going back and watching all episodes of Gunsmoke and the old 60s Batman and Star Trek and things of that nature, but I can't rely on that all the time because those are ideas that are now very, very familiar to me. And one of the benefits of storytelling is that someone out there might present another idea, not something, not for you to think how, but something to think about. It's like, oh man, yeah, that's an idea I haven't thought about in a while, and I'd like to dwell on that more. And I was really grateful that this movie or television show brought that up because it's something for you to take back into your own life. Like that's why I'm big on pushing back against the idea that movies are escapism, because that would suggest that reality is a prison or some sort of cage. And I don't agree with that. I think reality is awesome because it inspires the very things, the stories that we want to tell. And I think stories are an exploration because it allows us to explore that world in a fantasy environment and maybe explore questions and maybe come to answers or closer to an answer that we can bring back with us and ourselves that might, if not just enrich our lives personally, might allow us to enrich the lives of those we care about around us. That's what stories are for. That's why we sat around the campfire when we were just starting to figure out language and talking about the day the young scrawny warrior decided he was going to practice and train for fighting the tiger that had been terrorizing the village for a decade or so, killing the greatest hunters we had before. But he refused to stand by helpless. And, you know, he trained, he practiced throwing a spear. He learned a way to track the beast so that he could stay ahead of it if it ever became a cat and mouse situation or something of that nature. That was a story that was told about the fortitude with which to like survive in this dangerous world. Is you can't just sit on your butt and hope for the best. You actually have to be active participant in it, and you have to make sure that if you're going to be facing a dragon, you are prepared to face that dragon and maybe even die facing that dragon. You can't just walk up and say, I'm going to kill you because I'm Gorak, the son of Moog or something, and then stab him. It's like, no, you got to practice your throw. You got to understand what it means to do this. You have to understand who your enemy is and why they're doing what they're doing. That is the essence of story, because it's also teaching a lesson of basic education, which stories are. They're a form of education. Hey, isn't it interesting that, yeah, when life gets you down, persevere because you might be able to be victorious. That's a good message. That's a general education story about life. Don't back down when you're trying to get something that you want. And then there's other stories. Don't hurt people in order to get what you want. And don't let other people hurt you and keep you in your place just because they have their own agenda. There's this give and take aspect to life. And sometimes cooperation, sometimes teamwork, and sometimes, you know, a little bit of aggression needs to be exercised if you want to have a better life for yourself and those you care about.
Again, well said. I hate to end your statement with that, but it's like I have nothing to add to that. That was.
I had nothing to add either.
So speaking of adding, is there anything you guys want to add about this topic? I know we've gone on a little long, but the audience is here for it because, you know, we're not complaining about anything. So, Andrew, Script, anything you want to say more?
I honestly, I think I've said my piece on it for the most part. I would like to see a return of not necessarily art house films getting into prominence. I'd just like to see, for lack of a better word, more diversity in films, and that's
like real diversity.
Yeah, actual diversity, like variety, I guess, in terms of like different types of storytelling, you know, different genres, some lower budget stuff that like they made something happen. They made magic on screen without having to drop, you know, $500 million after marketing, and could actually turn a profit so they could then turn that around and do something else. I want to see more of that. And, you know, if things keep going as they are with Disney and these other studios losing a ton of money every single time it seems they're putting out one of these, you know, superhero flicks at this point, maybe we'll get that. I don't know. I would like that because I would like to actually look forward to movies again. I rarely do. Like this year, I looked forward to John Wick, which I enjoyed the hell out of. Mission Impossible, which I also enjoyed the hell out of. I'm actually really pissed off at the whole stupid ass Barbenheimer marketing thing that wound up basically damning that movie. And I was looking forward to the Meg 2. I still haven't seen it. I need to actually watch that on like digital. But that's really just kind of a stupid shit fun movie because like the first one was fun. But apart from that, it's like I wasn't looking forward to a single superhero film this year. I saw Guardians 3 when my bestie came to visit. We saw it in theaters, and I had a fun enough time with it. But I think that was partly because of the company. Like she and I used to go see movies all the time together in college. Like grab a drink, grab some food, then go see a movie. Like, and that was kind of the thing. And so it was probably more to do with that than anything else. It did have Cosmo. So it had a dog. It automatically gets points if it has a dog.
There was a dog dressed up as Cosmo at the con this weekend.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
There was also a dude my size dressed as Cosmo from the Fairly Odd Parents, which was equally amazing.
What the hell? oh my God. Yeah. I don't know how to feel about that.
Neither did I. I don't see people my size normally. It was weird. But one thing, folks, I'd like you to do in the chat. Mr. Blackstar has a great concept. I don't know if he originated in the chat, but folks, send us your best ones. So he pitched Waterworld 2, My Boat Has a Hole in It. So give me a sequel to a movie that doesn't exist, and give me the lamest conceit or the lamest plot point you can. So I know there are other Wizard of Oz stories, but imagine a sequel to the MGM Wizard of Oz. So it'd be like Wizard of Oz 2, but Dorothy goes to Canada instead of Oz or something. Just something weird like that. So,
yeah, there'd be that. I'm thinking there's an 80s martial arts film called Pray for Death, and I kind of want to do a sequel called Pray for Death Some More. And basically just be like, a Mask of Zorro type of thing where the dad hands off his sword to his son to go avenge a mob having killed his family for the sake of a necklace or something silly like that.
I absolutely love The Mask of Zorro.
It's a great movie.
It is better than it had any right to be, and Alex Kurtzman killed that franchise with his sequel. Because they've been trying to make a sequel to that literally the week after the first box office numbers came in, and they botched it bad.
I did not like that one at all. I didn't see it until many years later. I think it was on Netflix, and I was like, oh, the sequel to Zorro that I never saw all those years ago. And I haven't watched it since. I never will. But I go back and watch that. Martin Campbell, man, he knows how to introduce a hero to a new generation. He brought Bond to the 90s. Yeah, that's true. I forgot. See, that's how bad that movie is. I forgot it even existed.
Well, that's the miracles. Like Greg Berlanti wrote that script with Jeff Johns and co. And you're like, oh, well, Martin Campbell is a massively talented director. He resurrected Bond twice. He knows how to do heroic genre films. And then you're like, why is this not working? And I was around, Warner Brothers at the time, doing odd jobs here, assistants, PA stuff, some interning. The studio had no blocks put up with regards to Campbell working on that film. I think what ended up happening is Campbell was trying to rewrite the script and wasn't able to get it rewritten with Jeff Johnson, Greg Berlanti, and that's why you have a movie with some very competently shot set pieces, but terrible motivation, dialogue, understanding of what they're trying to do there. A whole scene where Hal Jordan goes to the Guardians asking for help and then says, well, then please let me go help them. And I'm sitting here in the theater going, bitch, they're not telling you can't do it yourself. Why are you asking permission? Just go. and it's like, and I'm literally thinking, like, did Martin Campbell actually direct this? Like, there's no, what's the reason that this isn't working? And it's like, well, the only reason is the script is terrible. It has to be. And for some reason, he couldn't get it whipped into shape in the way he wanted it to be. And then you learn later on that, oh yeah, Warner Brothers was so excited with the rushes from production that they greenlit for a sequel. And then apparently Martin Campbell was distracted kind of getting that in order while trying to make the movie at the same time. Like, well, there it is. There's the problem. You never focus on making a second movie when you haven't got the first one out there yet. The only exception, of course, is Lord of the Rings. But again, that's a movie, that's a story that has been tried and tested in the public sphere with the audience, you know people will show up for a sequel to it, especially if you're trying to make it as authentic as you possibly can. So yeah, with Green Lantern, Martin Campbell, man, that whole team, that's unfortunate because a Martin Campbell Green Lantern film, you would have pitched that. You pitched that even today, you probably would still get people going, yeah, I'd watch that, and not knowing that it already happened. But beforehand, you say Martin Campbell, guy who did Mask of Zorro, who basically turned a character no one has really heard about for 30 years into a blockbuster success that elevated Antonio Banderas to superstardom.
Yeah.
Yes, we're definitely going to make you do a Green Lantern film, especially considering how obscure Green Lantern kind of is. If you can nail that, you're golden. And here we are.
Yeah. I saw that on opening weekend, and you know what the sad part of this script is? I wasn't really a Green Lantern reader at all. But the hype of this movie, my buddy Joel is a big Green Lantern fan. He's like, oh yeah, Green Lantern's the best, this, that, and the other. So during the build-up to the film, I said to myself, I'm going to learn about the Green Lantern. I'm going to jump in head first. So I got one of these DC historical collection books where it started out with like the Gil Kane reintroduction of the green suit and all that stuff. And it led up through like the Parallax into the 90s and stuff like that. And then I picked up Green Lantern First Flight by not First Flight.
First Flight's the animated film. Secret Origin would have been Jeff Johns, yeah.
Jeff Johns and Ivan Reis.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's such a good artist.
He is. That was such a good book. And I was like really into the Green Lantern stuff. So 2011, if you would have said like, man, what are you liking to read in 2011? It would have been Spidey, Green Lantern, and then probably some other bullshit. But my point is, I got into Green Lantern heavily, only to be so disappointed by the movie that I gave up on the Green Lantern.
Oh, and you never read another one again? Oh, no.
Honestly, nope. Never, ever, ever did.
Sad. That's depressing. Well, yeah. I love Green Lantern. I love Hal Jordan. And I grew up with Jon Stewart as the Green Lantern through the animated series. And that movie, I have fun with it in moments, but that movie was such a letdown. It could have been something amazing, and it was just bad.
It's
just bad. The most redeeming thing about that is getting to see Blake Lively, I guess.
Mark Strong was a pretty convincing Sinestro.
Yeah, no, yes. He was good. He was definitely good. But
when he got that suit at the end, it looked great.
Yeah, the plot was rushed. The ending was anticlimactic as all hell.
I think they overcomplicated Hal Jordan and his family. I think that also hurt the film.
Yeah, I think most of his family was unnecessary.
Yeah.
All you need is the story of him and his dad. You don't need the rest of it.
Exactly. Also, I think John Tinney is a box office curse. He's a theater actor, but he's got this arrogance about him that I don't think he's good enough of an actor to hide on film. He used to be Terry Hatcher divorced him for a reason, folks. So
who did he play?
He played Hal's dad in the movie, and if the fact that that's who he played.
I mean, he was kind of benign. He was just kind of there.
Yeah, and that's not what you need for a father figure that you have the connection with your main character, right?
Yeah.
I have issues with Hector Hammond. That head is very uncomfortable to look at. So it's just
it's supposed to. It's supposed to be quite unnerving and gross looking.
One last thing I'll say about Green Lantern is that costume was really awkward, and it was just like, I won't say the CGI wasn't ready for the film, but I don't know. There's just a veneer of fakeness to it that really took me out of the story.
See, that's what I actually usually say, is that I don't think the CGI was quite ready yet for them to go full CGI with it. Like, they should have just gone with a more practical suit and just done little CGI touch-ups for the era that movie came out in. If that movie came out, dare I say, today, we have the technology. We could make it look fantastic. Though, present day DC and Marvel have been pretty bad about utilizing their CGI budgets well.
I just would want to see Lethal Weapon in space with Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, where the roles are reversed instead of.
I did a pitch of that for Hal Jordan and Sinestro, 5-season story arc, where by season 3 Sinestro goes bad, and that you actually feel for Hal Jordan having to fight his mentor.
I would have watched that.
Unfortunately, I got crickets when when I pitched in the room, I got nice little, that sounds exciting, but crickets after that. So it's like they were lying to me. Clearly, I didn't pitch it well enough. Son of a,
Right.
Now, let's talk about a pitch that somehow got past the initial stage. And that is this live-action remake of Snow White, which is the movie the internet cannot stop talking about. I see articles every day pop up about this film. I had a listener that recognized us at the convention bring this film up. Actually, I had a couple people bring it up, and when I was at Horror Hound, a lot of people were talking about it. So clearly this film is striking a nerve with society in a negative way.
Which is funny because nobody's going to go see it.
No. We have lived through the age of live-action remakes being exciting. I personally never thought they were exciting. But you had, in 2019, you had multiple billion-dollar hits with Aladdin and, what was the other one that came out? The Lion King. They both were out in 2019. They were both big hits. You had Cinderella a few years early. You had these other Disney live-action films be successful. But like when you copy a videotape, eventually the quality drops every time you make a copy of a copy. And I understand each one of these films is unique and original. Snow White is not Cinderella, which is not Beauty and the Beast, which is not Aladdin. But the novelty of seeing your favorite Disney film go from hand-drawn animation to live action, that effect has worn off. And like Scorsese says about how superhero cinema will be cinema for a whole generation of people, that's all they know. Disney is trying to create a version of all of their classics with the modern reinterpretations. Be that for lack of creativity, where they want to just remake the same thing, or they want to infuse modern day ideals in politics like there are with some of these films. No matter what, it's not been a successful, or it's not going to be successful moving forward. Even films like The Little Mermaid struggled to break even, no matter what they want to tell you. So, with that being said, audiences are not feeling this movie at all. People that you wouldn't think would traditionally go to see this film have an opinion of it. And that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But now, some interesting articles are starting to go viral. And I wanted to know what you guys think about this. So, according to the internet, Snow White will have its star Rachel Zegler dropped from the film, and the film will be recast.
You mean after it's already been shot?
Well, that's a lie because she wasn't dropped from Snow White.
They've already finished principal photography.
Yeah,
What are they going to do? Reshoot the whole bitch?
She was dropped from Paddington Bear 3.
But guys, don't use the truth and logic. You're going to break these angry people's hearts. They want to believe that she's fucking fired.
Look, I know people. I know it would make a lot of people super happy to hear the Rachel Big Mouth Zegler, who has somehow made herself even more insufferable than 2018 Brie Larson. I don't know how she managed to pull that off. Like that's almost a skill, right? That's how bad that is. A lot of people would love nothing more than to see her lose her job on this, but it's not going to happen. And you shouldn't fall for outright bullshit just to make yourself feel happy.
No. I'm cool with if you like this movie, if you don't like this movie, no matter what your opinions are on pop culture, you have a place here on World Class Bullshitters. We're not here to judge. We're not here to enforce groupthink. We're not here to bullshit you. Even though we're named World Class Bullshitters, it's an ironic name and you forget the world class part. But this has been popping up, and I just really wanted to talk to two level-headed guys with, especially with YouScript, with years of Hollywood work under your belt and somebody who knows how the industry actually works. And Andrew, you're a writer and an editor. You know how the production process of these things work as well, as so do I. But I just wanted to know what you guys thought about that, because I understand what she said pissed a lot of people off. I understand what she said has angered people that like traditional fairy tales. Hell, we have a very successful video on the topic as well. So I'm not here to tell anyone that their feelings are invalid. But to propagate the lie that she's been fired is just people with bullshit trying to really just, I don't know, lie to an audience. And that's where I like to step in. Every time I think somebody's lying to an audience just to get them riled up, to get them to click on something, to get them to comment on something. I don't want this movie. I'm not going to go support this movie. I don't suggest anyone else go support this movie unless you're a huge Snow White fan and you got to see this one or there's a gun to your head. But to constantly have these websites tell you, oh, she's fired, they're going to fix the movie. what fixing is there to do with the Snow White movie that's already shot? Are they going to CGI her out of the movie, guys?
Well,
No.
this isn't like the All the Money in the World debacle between that production and Kevin Spacey, where they had to replace him with Christopher Plummer. Um, she's like, Christopher Plummer wasn't really playing the main character in there. They just had to reshoot the scenes he was in, which with Christopher Plummer instead of Kevin Spacey, which was substantial, but not main character, probably in every single scene substantial. And that's just absurd. Like, they're not even done technically filming Snow White. They did I think the principal, and they started doing promotional stuff, and then they have to do pickups, but the pickups were stopped with the SAG strike that began in July. So that's still pending. And until that strike ends, the movie's in limbo, and it will be in limbo until that comes in. She's going to be Snow White in this atrocity that is Snow White. It's really just I know there's a lot of people that like to call a certain section of the YouTube sphere, especially in our sphere here, grifters, but we're not, because we're the ones calling out and saying, no, she's still Snow White. She just lost the job to Paddington, and the reason she lost the job to Paddington is because she is basically part of that hot to crazy scale that we've seen the meme of over and over again. Like, she's pretty attractive, but she's also really freaking crazy. And arrogant at the same time. And that's not a good combination when you're an actor trying to be the most approachable, likable personality compared to all the others around you. And so she's basically killed her own career right as it is getting started. Not a good step. I mean,
So she was just fired from Paddington because she's unlikable? That's hilarious to me.
well, right again, the controversy that she stirred up, not just because when she got cast as Snow White, she was very excited. She lauded the Disney story and the fairy tale, and then as she's doing the production and pre-press junket for it, she's then goes opposite, calling some of the characters in the story creepy, calling the story not needing a hero or a man in a particular case to save her. Kind of really going against the initial thoughts that she did on some of the initial announcements. And that doesn't help, because you're basically just telling your audience, hey, the thing that you liked, you were wrong for liking that. And that's not good. That's bad form overall. And then on top of that, she also voiced some very arrogant and uninformed opinions about the strike, and that don't actually line up with a lot of the veterans that are in those unions. I mean, the stuff that you hear out of Rachel Zegler is the stuff you hear out of the people that write, Moon Knight or She-Hulk or Star Trek Discovery. It's like, these people are the problem. We shouldn't be giving them the attention, because they're actually making the rest of us look worse than we actually are. And it's really not good. And I think the people who are behind Paddington, which is primarily a UK film, under UK contracts, they're looking at it's like, you know what? She's probably going to be more of a headache than we want. And Paddington is a very successful film franchise. The third movie is going to be in production pretty soon. I don't think they want the blowback that they are seeing right now in the social sphere regarding Rachel Zegler to taint a very stable film franchise.
I didn't realize how big Paddington was. I just grew up with him as a fridge magnet and a book.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, a lot of people like those movies. I saw the first one. I haven't seen the second one yet, although everyone tells me if you see it, you're probably going to cry. In which case I said, well, then I don't really have time for that. It's not that I don't want to cry. It's just I listen. If I want to cry, I have to be in the mood to cry. And rarely do I have time to sit down and be like, yeah, I could go for a cry right now. That's not in my thing. That's not an option for me. It's like, I got better things to do. Like, I cried when my dad passed away. And I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of teared out from that point. And unless, another close family member that I love passes, I'm probably going to retain my tears for them, because those are the people that deserve it.
I didn't think a kids movie would make a lot of people. It makes me laugh when people say, like, you'll cry in a movie and you don't, and then you're like, am I the asshole here? Because I've had
Right?
that thought.
Listen, the closest thing that I can get to like an emotional, misty-eyed response is actually oddly enough watching the original Superman film. Just the fact that you see him, pick up the Lois's hat, looks up, sees the problem, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go stop this." And you're like, "Dude, how awesome would it be if we actually had a hero in real life who would be willing to, go and try and help someone dangling off the edge of a helicopter in real time?" It's like you kind of wish for that fantasy to be a reality. You get misty-eyed with the fact that here's a guy that's a god, and his priority is not to do something selfish but selfless. And people say, "Well, that's boring." It's like, no, that is fascinating. And that's the
those
point.
people don't have attention spans.
Yeah. I mean,
I
I
thought
was
you were
actually
gonna-
showing a buddy of mine just little clips from Superman Returns of the saves. And I'm like, that one scene where you have Kate Bosworth as Lois Lane in the plane, and she's pushed up against the wall because it's falling, and she looks out the window, and you just see that red-blue blur fly along. Everybody in the world who saw that scene knew, oh, everything's going to be okay. And it's like, that's a very powerful image to convey so simplistically. It's like, that's how popular Superman is, and how much emotion that comes with his character is that you just see a red blue blur fly by a window and you're in trouble, and you see that, you're like, all of a sudden calmness kind of overwhelms you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's pretty damn powerful to have. Now, unfortunately, that movie was not fantastic, but where were those scenes like that in Man of Steel, right? Where are those scenes like that in
Where was
like,
Superman
you don't have
in Man of
those
Steel?
exactly. You don't have that scene where it's like, oh, I see something familiar enough that I know exactly what it means when it finally appears on screen. Like, you see that symbol, that proper Superman symbol on your screen after Clark Kent pulls open his shirt. You're like, yeah, getting down to work. We know what's going to happen. He's going to pull this off somehow. And if he doesn't, it's going to elevate the stakes to the point where the next time he does make an attempt, we are going to be on his side 100% without any doubts that and cheering him on. That's a really powerful thing. We don't get that type of stuff done in movies anymore. And then when it comes to emotional responses with Paddington, the fans really love that bear. He's got an innocence and curiosity to him that allows us to kind of reconnect with our own sense of wonder and curiosity. And it goes into the idea of Big, the Tom Hanks movie. What's the cool thing about Big is that when you become an adult, don't forget the wonder that you had as a kid, because that's what makes life interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I'm doing life right according to Big, because I'm still having fun.
Still having fun. But hey, if you're sleeping in bunk beds, that's a win.
Hey, Step Brothers is one of my favorite movies, so if I got to be like Dale Doback and Brennan Huff, I'm cool with that.
My
I would
favorite
need a
joke
big
is
bunk bed, though.
him burying him, and then he says, "Quiet, you're going to wake up the neighbor."
I love that part.
It's so simple and brilliant. It's like grown up at the same time, childish.
I'm trying to think. Like, Step Brothers is very dumb, and that's
Yes.
the beauty of it. But there are a few jokes in the movie that aren't as stupid as people think the rest of the film is. And I'm trying to think of an example of one of my favorite ones. I mean, I think my favorite part of the movie doesn't even include those guys. It's the Sweet Child of Mine car ride part, because I don't like that song. That's probably my least favorite mainstream song. I can't stand it. Every time I hear the fucking opening note, I hit next or I want to walk out of the room. But just the way when he's like, "Bow, I'm Derek and I can sing high like that," and they almost wreck the car, and then they wait a beat and they get right back on the track of the song, that gets me every time. Like, Derek is such a narcissist. I love that character so much.
Yeah.
I wish we had... See, we need more villains that are memorable for the right reasons, and not like, oh, they're just misunderstood and we need to No, how many of these mainstream movies have terrible villains because they can't have someone be truly bad? That's, I know Derek has his moment, but still, he's a dick for most of it.
But they miss the valuable point. Like, they basically say the villain doesn't understand that they're the villain in their own story. That's the point. They have to find some sort of horrible logic to justify their actions and be fine with it. That's what makes them evil. And people are just trying to say, well, no, they have to be sympathetic. It's like, no. The thing that incites them to villainy can be a sympathetic thing. But after that point, everything that they do has to be a twisted logic to justify the actions they're doing. And it has to basically deflate and show the abuse of what happened to beforehand, where you can say, you know what, if that character didn't do that, we wouldn't have this evil supervillain. But it's up to the villain to have not gone as far as they did.
The
That's why you
sympathetic
have,
villain is such an overplayed freaking trope,
well,
and
they
it pisses
play
me
it
off because
literally.
it's they're messing with virtue, they're messing with morality, and they're just trying to basically come up with an excuse for why this person did all these shitty things. Like, you can have shitty
Yeah.
things happen to you. Guess what? Shitty things happen to everybody, but not everybody becomes a piece of shit because of it.
They're taking the concept of the formula of
It
choice for
removes
the hero.
responsibility.
Yeah, they're removing the responsibility, but they're taking the idea of the choice for the hero. So like you have the underdog moment. Like for instance, you can go back to Superman. Clark Kent is the water boy, and then Brad Johnson knocks over all the things that he stacked up. So now he can't go hang out with Lana. He's got to stay behind and stack up. Well, he doesn't grab Brad and then throw him into the back of a truck because he's ruined his afternoon to talk with Lana, which someone with trying to do the sympathetic villain would actually do, because they say, yeah, revenge is justified in that situation. Instead, the hero always takes the high road. It's like, okay, I'll stack it up, but you know what I'll do? I'll run at super speed home, beat them there because I know they'd have to drive by my house, and I'll just let them be confused by that and have my own little fun. And it's my dramatic irony on them. But with the sympathetic villain, they're like saying, no. If someone does something bad to you, you have the right to do something bad to them. And this is also a part of things that I've noticed in certain pockets of American culture, where if someone has hurt you in any egregious way, it's not enough to hurt them back, but you have to take it to the next step. And it's like, well, why do you have to escalate it that way? Well, because they hurt me. Yes, but you could either just, if they punch you and you punch them back, that's kind of the end of it. But if they punch you and you draw a gun and shoot them, who is really doing the escalation here? And do you really have to go that far? Especially if it's a one-on-one thing, right? It's showing like an abuse and fear that is, to my opinion, is very un-American, because, you know, land of the free, home of the brave, right? You should be brave enough to the point where you could stand your ground and defend yourself in a normal fisticuffs fights, and you don't have to draw a weapon. Now, if the other guy who started the fight does draw a weapon, draw your own and, you know, duke it out, you know, proper balancing of things. But it's the person who's on the defensive who then escalates to be the principal aggressor. That's part of that sympathetic villain thing that these writers abuse and do to try and justify that they're in the right, because, you know, they hurt me, I'm going to hurt them back. It's, they send one of us to the hospital, we send one of them to the morgue. It's like, that's not the mentality of how you create a sympathetic villain. That's basically just creating a villain, but then trying to make it the fault of society, as opposed to the fact that, yes, society is bad, but because they didn't understand the context of what they're doing in society, they are still a villain. They're not to be sympathized for. They're to be cautioned. And they completely forgot that. You can have a sympathetic inciting incident, but it's the choice of that character that makes them the villain or not. And they're no longer a sympathetic villain as a result of that. It's sympathy for the inciting incident, but their choices are dictating them to basically say, yeah, this bad thing happened to me, but I'm going to show them, and I'm going to show them so much to the point where they'll remember me for all these horrible things I'm going to do, and I'll be right to do it because they wronged me once. Where a regular villain would just be like, I'm just going to stop it right. I'm just going to do things because I'm greedy and I want something. And you know what? I don't care. It's like, yeah, I had a bad dad, but you know what? He taught me something good. He taught me I had to survive, and I could do anything I had to survive, and I'm justified for doing it because the world is hard. That's not a sympathetic villain, but that's a rational one that thinks that they're a hero. And that's something that we're losing in it, because again, we don't want one-dimensional villains. Being bad for the sake of bad is boring. But if they think that they're doing something good, like the classic Bond villain, I'm going to purify the world by putting this spore. I'm using Moonraker because it's ridiculous, but I'm going
I knew it as soon as you said the word spore.
spore on the planet so I can create a perfect humanity and a perfect society. It's like, you think there's a benefit to that, but it's absolutely horrifying. And he's not a sympathetic villain. He's a maniacal maniac, but you like to hate him because he thinks he's in the right, and we know he's in the wrong. And we're hoping that James Bond and all the other guys that had secret laser weapons are going to stop him.
Not enough people had secret laser weapons to stop him. Only Bond.
That was an OP weapon in GoldenEye 64.
Dude, in the movie, it's OP.
Yeah.
In the movie, it melts the dude's head. Well, it's okay. It's a dummy, but it melts its head in one shot. It's a very different type of laser blast from Star Wars. But, yeah, wow.
That was no phaser set to stun there.
You quoted Moonraker, or referenced Moonraker, and I didn't vomit in my mouth. So, script, there's just a way you can talk about anything on this show. So, congratulations. I hate that movie so much. That and Octopussy. Goddamn. Never.
You know what's sad is that both of them have pretty good premises, but what the heck did they do with them? Nothing.
No.
They just phoned it in. Moonraker's not even like authentic to the book.
Oh god, the book is way better. I read it on a flight to WrestleMania 25 back in 2009. I was like, this book is great. Why is the movie so terrible?
What the hell happened here?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Star Wars happened. That is literally
pretty
why
much.
they made that movie. Well,
Star Wars happened, and they freaked out. The Broccoli's freaked out, and yeah.
yeah, like folks, I don't know if you in the chat know this, but if you watch The Spy Who Loved Me, the James Bond film that came out the same year as Star Wars, it said James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only. But after Star Wars became the biggest movie ever, they were going to cash in on the space craze, and Moonraker followed in 1979. And it was a big hit, and it made a lot of money, and it made sense from a financial standpoint, but it is one of the biggest pieces of crap of that year. People are like, Moonraker's not as bad as you say. It's worse. Go back and watch it. It's pretty stupid.
It's like, you know what? Maybe you're right. It's actually worse.
Oh, man.
Yeah. However, For Your Eyes Only was pretty good, so.
One of my favorites.
I mean, at least the Moonraker allowed them to like get all the crap out so that they can make For Your Eyes Only better.
I mean, he's the actor I met over the weekend. He's the villain from that movie. I love For Your Eyes Only. I have the Marvel Comics adaptation. I have the soundtrack. I mean, I'm not the world's biggest Roger Moore fan, but he made 2 Bond films that I hold in high regard. Live and Let Die and For Your Eyes Only. I think those are 2 of the absolute best in the entire franchise.
I think they probably are. I still have an affinity for The Spy Who Loved Me and A View to a Kill.
I love View to a Kill.
There's something so cheeky and fun with A View to a Kill that you're just like, this is a charming Bond film. It's not the best of the Bond films, but there's just something extra going on with it that I love.
I call it the MTV 007 flick because you had Grace Jones, you had Duran Duran, you had Tanya Roberts was younger than him. It had a cool factor to it too. And I always, I go to these James Bond message boards and forums and hear the purists shit on the movie. But damn it, I love A View to a Kill. It's so much fun, and it is the best send-off for any Bond actor. No Bond has had a better final film. So
that's true.
I mean, come on, man. The Duran Duran song is so good.
Well, not just the Duran Duran song, but also the John Barry Orchestra's adaptation of it. It's like, man, they took a pop song, an 80s kick-ass pop song, and they made it into a type of love ballad.
Oh, with what is it, the flute that plays it?
It's like the flute and the strings that they throw in there. It just works. And they're like, damn, we don't get hybrid type of adaptations of songs like that in Bond movies anymore.
I agree with you 100%. John Barry was the best Bond composer by a country mile. I mean, you had other good Bond composers, but nobody created as many memorable themes as him. And I don't know. I know the legality of it, that Monty Norman technically created the Bond theme, but I thought it was because it was too similar to a song he created called Mr. Bizwaz, and so they have to give him the credit, even though John Barry kind of came up with the other part. But
he came up with after the guitar part, right?
Yeah, the da 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 da.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, because the guitar part, I think a lot of people, was from another song, or at least something very similar to it was from another song, and then they're like, okay, we need something longer to justify the opening credits for Dr. No. And it's like, this is not going to do it. So John Barry did his thing, and it worked. And then on top of that, John Barry is the one who did On Her Majesty's Secret Service opening theme, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which very different from any of the other Bond stuff, but really catchy.
It breaks my heart a little when there are 2 movies that when fans of a franchise or people kind of dump on blindly, I lose a little faith in humanity. One of those films is Halloween 3, and the other one is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. If people look at it as, well, that's the Bond film with the other guy, or that's the Bond film that's the bad one because he was only in one movie. No, that's not why he was only in one movie. It's a very good film. I could argue it's one of the best. On the right day, it's up there with everything else for me, like GoldenEye.
Yeah.
But that movie, it fires on all fronts. He was a strong Bond. The music is the shit. The action scenes. I mean, he even broke a stuntman's nose practicing for that. That movie is very adrenaline filled, and it's a 54-year-old movie at this point. That movie has more testosterone flowing through it than a lot of modern action movies. That Bond kicks ass. I mean,
Well,
it's
he has
got
3
great
balls,
ski chases. It's
just
got
like on his
everything.
family cut arms.
Yeah, orbis non sufficient.
It's true.
Oh God.
I laughed so hard at that when I first heard it.
It's such a good movie, man. I mean,
Yep.
every
Oh, and you have,
Christmas I watch that one.
and you have Telly Savalas as Blofeld,
Yep.
who just nails it. And I mean, yeah, it's an underrated, underappreciated film I think because it's the one that's not shown on television as often as all the others. And
That's
I
a
don't
fair
know
point.
why. Yeah.
I don't either. I mean, what other people don't, or what they fail to realize too, is that because of the absence of Sean Connery, every other element was amplified. Moneypenny had a larger part, so her connection with Bond is better than it ever had before, or had been before. You get to see more of MI6. You get to see Bond actually operate in London and do espionage there. I mean, the Bond girls are cool and sexy, everything. And they're not as lame as, like, oh, look, I love Domino. She's beautiful. She's great from Thunderball, but it's like, she's just kind of there. She's Largo's kept woman. Tracy's cool. She's not, she never one-ups Bond. She's not like a modern Bond, or a modern action hero female character like Phoebe Waller-Bridge. But she is fun, and she can save the day when need be, but Bond is still Bond. That's the balance a lot of these places lose. And if they did, this culture war of entertainment wouldn't be what it is, because fans wouldn't roll their eyes and use the dreaded W word. They would.
Well, the thing is that they're forgetting about the complementary nature of it. Like, that's one of the things that was really cool about James Bond, not just in the regular James Bond films, but even in the Woody Allen, Peter Sellers Casino Royale film. The women there knew their strengths, and they used them to complement Bond if they could. Or in some cases, they used them to exploit Bond if they could. And I'm thinking of like Goldfinger, how the Goldfinger's agent is kind of messing with him all the time. I dig that type of stuff, and I think it's really, really cool. I mean, in the original Casino Royale, James Bond's daughter is like a belly dancer of sorts, but she's also got these other skills because she was kind of the son of the daughter of James Bond, like David Nevin. And they're like, okay, so let's have this gag with the Berlin Wall where she gets inside and then has to escape, and she's not beating the crap out of them easily. She's like using like frying pans and candlesticks, and she's running away for her life. She's not staying there to fight and then walking away. She's trying to get the heck out of Dodge. And it's all believable and funny. And then you have the jokes where Woody Allen has pinned down one of the other agents, and he's like, and she's just making fun of him for his own insecurity and height and lack of masculinity. And it's like, okay, she knows she can't physically beat him because she's restrained, so she's just going to, egg him on with verbal wit. And it's like, where are those types of things? That makes a strong character. Those choices and ingenuity and cleverness, and how you complement the people around you that you're working with, and how you compromise the people around you that you're trying to defeat. Though that level of ingenuity is as rare as platinum in Hollywood these days.
You're right. And like I said a moment ago, I feel like culture war content would be a lot different had they figured out that balance. But hey, at least it makes for interesting YouTube content for some people.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, man, we can go on about Bond forever. And I frequently do think about James Bond movies quite a bit. A lot of people...
I have not heard this.
Well, here's the thing I don't really talk about, man. Christmas time is my James Bond time, because they used to do the 007 Days of Christmas, and even though they don't do that anymore, I still keep that alive. Around the holidays, I will pull out my box set, and I'll start at Dr. No, and I will work through every Bond movie, and I'll put Moonraker on in the background. And that's, that's how I'll treat it.
Well, damn. Okay.
Yeah, dude, Christmas time is James Bond time in this household. And then on Christmas Day, of course, it's Die Hard. Actually, it's Christmas Eve is Die Hard. That's just how it has to be.
Yeah,
honestly,
Die Hard, Scrooge, Lethal Weapon. Those are good Christmas movies right there.
Hell, 2 of those are Richard Donner films. That's why he was the patron saint of this channel. We love Richard Donner movies. I mean, The Omen, The Goonies, Superman, they're all
Maverick.
great.
God,
Yes.
Maverick is so good.
I keep forgetting about that movie. Fucking Jodie Foster.
Yep.
I think that's the only Jodie Foster movie I really like.
I really liked Silence of the Lambs and Contact, but yeah, she's very charming and different in Maverick.
Yeah, and Mel Gibson. I mean, Mel Gibson's cool. I know people. You're not allowed to say Mel Gibson's cool these days.
No,
But
you should be. He's straightened himself out significantly over the last decade.
yeah,
But I totally get it. Some people just don't want to acknowledge the fact that he got so freaking drunk and he got completely manipulated and triggered by a lot of people when that happened. But he's listen, he's the one that helped Robert Downey Jr. straighten out, and Robert Downey Jr. helped him straighten him out, and we're better for that because they're not as crazy as they could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Given Rachel Zegler, we can actually see how crazy someone can get.
Yeah. I mean, why don't these actors understand, like, the stuff you do will come back, and the stuff you do will affect your career at any stage. You can be Mel Gibson, who's made, I mean, he had already done Passion of the Christ, so his movie made like a couple $100 million. He independently produced it, so that was a big one for him. But I mean, that dude had been around for what, almost 40 years at that point? Mad Max is what, 78?
78.
Right?
He did Passion of the Christ 2004. So yeah, he'd already been 26 years in there. He learned how to direct from two of the greats, George Miller and Richard Donner. I mean, what better mentors could you ask for when you're an actor at that point in time?
I agree. Growing up, Mel Gibson movies were always cool to me. I mean, I wasn't like the biggest fan of everything he did, but what I did see as a child, I liked. Except that movie, was it Forever? What's the one where he has the weird scarred face? Is that Forever Young?
The one with Elijah Wood, I think, right?
Because that one just kind of creeped me out. I mean, I was a kid, so, it is what it is.
The Forever One, Young, yeah, he's trapped in a time. He's cryogenically frozen, but then starts to rapidly age, I think, right? It's been a while since I've seen it. It's not one of his best.
I'm thinking of The Man with No Face. The Man Without a Face. Thank you, Monster Zero One. That's the one that creeped me as a kid.
Did you see his Santa Claus one?
Oh, Fat Man, right? Or something like that. I wanted to see it.
Dude, very good. Love that.
The only Santa Claus movie I've seen lately was the one with David Harbour.
Right. The Die Hard Night. Christmas one. Yeah. Silent Night.
We got quoted from the official social media. It was cool to see our review up there on their official videos. I was like,
oh, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
I was hoping they'd put it on the DVD cover. I was like, man, if they ever put us on a DVD or Blu-ray box, then it officially
world-class bullshitters.
It's like, well, they must be authentic.
Oh, man.
All they have to do is credit us as WCBS. They'll think it's the CBS affiliate out of New York.
Yeah, there you go.
The radio station?
That's good.
They really like us.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm okay with being associated with that. But, one thing I wanted to address, too, because Andrew and I were just texting off air, but the people that are pushing for this whole Rachel Zegler is going to get fired thing, they're even trying to use the fact that the merchandise doesn't look enough like Rachel Zegler to justify, oh, she's fired. Now, what they fail to realize is that the toys they're talking about are from Mattel, and all Mattel dolls look slightly off. Like, I'm going to show you an example right here. Mm-hmm. Because the movie Barbie came out, and people like it, people don't like it, whatever. But I'm just holding time while I'm typing. But the doll kind of looks like Margot Robbie, but not really just like Margot Robbie. Like, here we go.
It's like a hybrid between Barbie and Margot Robbie Barbie.
Yes, and that's how all Mattel toys look. Now, if you're looking at their WWE line, those things look great and photorealistic. But at the same time, the Barbie stuff is stylized and meant to look a certain way. Any of their dolls are meant to look a certain way. So that's supposed to be the Margot Robbie Barbie. I don't really see Margot Robbie as much as I see like a hybrid of Barbie and, something else. What do you guys think?
I see the face shape and the eyebrows, but the rest of the face, well, a little bit in the mouth, I guess. Like the smile, but that's not all too dissimilar from Barbie's normal smile anyway, right? It's a little wider. It's
if Barbie and Margot Robbie had a kid.
Yeah, like they spliced the DNA of the two and made this effectively. I get the point of them doing that. I don't like they have a very specific look and a framework within that they operate, and they don't want to operate outside of that. That's fine. It's their business.
I also
But
think Margot Robbie's Barbie didn't have bangs, so that's probably throwing people off too.
Maybe.
I'd never trust a girl with bangs.
You don't trust Betty Page? Well, she's dead, so how could you trust her?
She's gone, and you can't trust her. She disappeared.
Oh yeah.
But no, it's just some advice I got from some grandparents, friends of grandparents and friends of mine.
Right.
Like they're hiding something, or if they only like to cut some of their hair but not all of it, there's something wrong. I don't know. There's something
wise advice.
behind it.
I just take issue with the deliberate reaching. It's tantamount to intellectual dishonesty. It's being deliberately manipulative with your audience. Look, like I said earlier, we'd all love to see Zegler get tossed on her ass, just as we all would have loved to see that happen to Brie Larson back in 2018 and 2019. We would have absolutely loved that. But it doesn't mean you have to make stuff up.
No. And for the record, that's what a realistic Margot Robbie doll looks like. That's the hot toy from Harley Quinn.
I kind of need that.
Well, you can get her on the aftermarket for how much is she?
Probably like $1,500 if it's a hot toy.
Oh, no. First off, hot toys, they do hold their value, but you got to remember, not every hot toy holds its value. It has to be based on a character that a lot of people like. They have to be iconic. Now, this specific Harley Quinn has gone up in price, but the other one from the Emancipation of Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, is only $165.
I'm good with that one.
Well, this one is you're going to pay $570.
Well,
yeah.
I'll keep working hard. Maybe we'll get there someday.
Well,
I can't justify it right now, but that is a piece I wouldn't mind adding to the old shelf.
I'll keep an eye out, because what they're doing now is they're re-releasing these dolls with real hair. If they came, because they were with plastic hair originally, like the technology's caught up to where they can do realistic hair at that scale. So they have a Heath Ledger Joker coming out, which is like the 19th Heath Ledger Joker they've made. But this one has, real hair, and it actually looks awesome. I'm not gonna lie. If I collected shit from the dark, like you talk about how, let's go back for a quick second, how we have been culturally like frozen. They keep making shit from the Dark Knight and releasing it like it's brand new. I'm just like,
Arrested Development, right?
It's because people didn't give a crap about the Batman.
Well,
Or
any of Snyder's garbage.
Yeah.
I mean,
as much as Ben Affleck was actually a really good cast.
I have rarely ever seen a Henry Cavill like Superman toy in toy stores.
Well, there's this. If I can find the link, I'll send it to you. This other company just got the license. They're doing Henry Cavill as their first toy. I've never seen something look more realistic. I thought the pictures were of Henry Cavill. Like, they hid there's no joints because it's a cloth suit. The head sculpt is perfect. They got every strand of hair sculpted just right. I want to buy it just because it looks so damn realistic.
See, that's the thing. I only ever see, I don't see them in toy stores, but the Hot Toy stuff and some of the specialty toy markets, yeah, you'll find a Henry Cavill Superman, you'll find a Ben Affleck Batman, Jared Leto Joker, and so forth. But I think that's also to your point, is that if we don't see them in the regular off the shelf merchandising areas, then they're clearly not having the cultural impact that is intended with the production of these films.
Mm-mm. And then sometimes some of the films that do have the merchandise that's out there that'll sit there forever, like a Blue Beetle. It's kind of, I know I keep saying this every week, but I didn't think that movie was bad. I'm not going to say it's movie of the year, but when I walked out, I went, it kind of sucks that this one's the big flop. Like, I can see why The Flash flopped. I can see why Shazam. I can see why other ones flopped. I'm like, but this one, it had a decent story, and I liked the characters. But, oh well. I think all comic book movies from DC are poisoned right now. I think Aquaman's got to shit the bed harder than Amber Heard.
I was about to say the Amber Turd.
It's a fire sale because companies under new management get the other stuff out. I know people are saying, well, they kept Ezra and they're keeping Amber. It's like, dude, they're not keeping them. They're stuck with them. It's like what I say is, when you have a car that you need to sell for parts, you don't give it a new detail and paint job. You just try to sell it for parts because you're throwing good money after bad. That's what Warner Brothers is doing with their DC. That's why Aquaman, they released their first teaser like 2 weeks ago, and we already forgot about it.
Oh yeah, that's right. I haven't even watched it because I just
Warner
didn't
Brothers
care.
knows that better than anybody. They're just
Yeah.
like, listen, all we have to do publicly is say it's the best superhero movie of the year. We meet our fiduciary duties. We get it out there. Audiences go or not. Who cares? We get it out. We don't have to worry about any back-end deals or any type of distribution markets or anything of that nature that's going to break our bank or cost us any more money. Then we start fresh with whatever James Gunn and Peter Safran has. And if that works, good. And if it doesn't, Zaslav will cut it at the knees right away because he does not like to stick to things like that. Take a look at luckily, actually, you can do this now on Wikipedia. If you Wikipedia all the Discovery Plus and Discovery shows from the time Zaslav took over, you will see a lot of shows, but you'll see only a handful of them have multiple seasons, and a lot of them being cut because they sucked and they didn't last that long. Because the moment they sucked and they weren't able to bounce back, he got rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty crazy. We haven't seen something crucial like that in a long time.
I mean, he threw out Batgirl real fast.
Well, that was easier to do because it didn't have any pre-sales. So
it didn't have any pre-sales. It wasn't tied into external markets and
exactly. It was very internal.
In terms of like the the tax credits and things like that.
Yeah, it was meant for HBO Max. They were then thinking about doing it for release in theaters. It did not test well at all. They're like, well, thank God we don't have any pre-sales or any other external licensing deals. We can actually cut it and write it off.
Just wrote the whole thing off. Yep.
When it comes to a lot of films, like, there's guys like Valiant Renegade and Pro, they're talking about how much money these studios are spending, specifically Disney. One of the things that they haven't gotten to yet, but they probably will because it's really difficult to look for, is you have to look for the pre-sales. So sometimes the movie will have a $300 million budget, in this case with Snow White. Mm-hmm. That might not all come from loans and credits or discretionary money from within Disney. Some of that might have been funded through pre-sales, which means that's not truly an expense. So when sometimes there's a reported budget of, say, $120 million, that might be $120 million that the studio borrowed on a line of credit, but they probably also pre-sold for another $200 million to other markets, and they spent that money on the production. So what they actually spent might be X, but what they total spent might be Y. But most of that Y is not spent from Disney. And it's really complicated math. It's crazy. The interesting aspect is that even though they're spending that money through pre-sales, because they're spending it in certain countries, they still get the tax credit back on that. So they're ended up making even more money that they can roll into the budget on top of that. That's part of how we're able to get such inflated budgets in one area. As for how they're spending it, that has been foreign to me. I don't know how you can justify spending $300 million on a 2-hour fantasy film about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or in this case, Seven Bandits. So it's really like, I'm fascinated to see how these guys do it, because I always hear through secondary parties and friends of friends and whatnot, oh yeah, we pre-sold this movie and it pretty much paid for itself. But we still had to collect, the $80 million we need to get the thing going so that we could pre-sell it. And you're like, well, how much did you actually spend? How much did we spend? We spent $80 million. How much was actually valued on there? Well, with the pre-sale costs, we spent that money too. We roll that into the overall expenditures, but not part of the actual reported budget. It's a whole bunch of weird numbers. It's movie math that there's a reason why I dated an accountant in Hollywood, not just because she was gorgeous, but also because she was helping me translate this stuff so that when I would go into pitch, I could actually say, this is what the budget is. This is what the potential pre-sales could be. This would be a good idea for you to invest in. And either I got a yay or a nay, mostly nay, because 99% of Hollywood is rejection. But it's a nightmare to try and go through. But just we're all these like what's great now is that the general public, if they're interested in film and film finance, they're actually getting a lot more information than they ever had access to before. And it's fascinating to see them be shocked, upset, and angry at it, because it's very egregious spending. Shouldn't be happening that way.
It's irresponsible spending.
I want more of the spending on Indiana Jones to come out, because that's just the one that fascinates me. That what I saw on screen cost that much money. I mean, we understand CGI is expensive, but I want more information on that movie.
Unless they rebuilt Syracuse, I don't believe it, because it was cost really that much money.
And everyone's like, well, Harrison Ford needed his money. We know what Harrison Ford made. Not that much. I mean, he made millions and millions of dollars. My point is, it wasn't the whole budget was spent on him.
Right.
That's right.
So we all agree that Snow White will come out. We all agree that it will be Rachel Zegler.
Yep.
I'm just interested to see how little money the movie makes, because for all of the, let's just say there are two sides on the internet, the pro and anti Snow or Little Mermaid, excuse me. The movie still struggled to break even, so for everybody that wanted to promote it as the world's greatest thing, it wasn't this outright hit. The trolls on the internet weren't really trolls. So I guess I want to ask you guys in a roundabout way, how big of a flop is Snow White going to be? Do you think this thing's going to recover?
It would be very lucky if it had Little Mermaid numbers.
No, I don't see it happening. Look at most of Disney's projects coming out in this last couple of years. Like they are on the struggle bus in terms of putting out stuff that actually turns a legit profit, an actual profit, not what CBR and Screen Rant tell you, or Vox or any of these other garbage tier websites. I'm talking like actual profit. So after the marketing budget, after the theaters take their cut, they actually made money. It hasn't been happening. And I see no way to justify assuming that this movie would be any different than that. I think this movie's going to lose money, just as I think the Marvels is going to lose money. I think the Marvels is going to lose a lot of money, honestly.
Well, like I was mentioning at the beginning of the stream, excuse me, all those Marvels toys, and I mean the Marvels, those have been cleared to get out of Target already.
The movie's not even out yet.
Yeah, we're 2 months away. Now, to be fair, it's all Marvel stuff. I'm not going to act like it's just the Marvels. But that's not... Why do you clear shit unless you want to get it out of your store because it's not moving? I don't think Hasbro is going to be able to produce Marvel for much longer. Because I'm guessing the reason for their price increases is because Disney wants more for the license. Or Hasbro's as greedy as everyone says. I believe both. But either way, you're going to see less and less... Or let me rephrase it. You will see a lot of Marvel glut or a lot of Star Wars glut because they're about to be $30 an action figure. People aren't going to pay $30 for an action figure at that scale, at that quality. So be prepared to see a lot of Disney stuff. My guess is it will go away quicker than you would think because companies will not pay the exorbitant licensing fees. So unless Disney's willing to take a hit, don't expect to see some of your favorite Disney shit get made. They have a $600 Buzz Lightyear coming out.
Why?
I can't...
What?
I
Does
don't
it
know
fly?
why.
Does it shoot real lasers? Because I'm not spending that much on a toy that doesn't do any of those things.
I don't even think it makes noise.
What?
Yeah, like you know how the other Buzz Lightyear toys all would talk.
Yeah.
Is it proportionally the size that Buzz was in the movies?
Yeah.
At least?
Yeah, it's 11 inches tall.
Okay, so it's proper size, but still, no.
Yeah.
Why? Why
The
would
wing-
you do that?
I don't know.
Does
Yeah,
it
I
make
don't
me
even think...
coffee? Does it pour me drinks?
No, that would be cool.
I maybe justify that. Kind of.
Does
No,
it
not
fall
even
with
that.
style?
Does it fall with style? No, probably falls and shatters into a million pieces.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how this thing is so expensive and has less features than the one that came out a couple years ago for like $80.
The one in
What the
'96 had more features.
Yeah, this one, if you read it closely too, the wings open manually.
So there's no like button that makes them pop out like they do in the movie, or like
No,
have in the older toys.
It has, it has the button, but it does not make the wings, fly out. You have to pull each wing out and fold it out.
Holy
No.
hell!
This is like self-checkout. It's not a toy. You're just building it for the toy
If somebody
manufacturer.
showed me that figure and they actually bought that figure, I would tell me, you didn't pay money for this.
It looks nice, but it also looks like a waste of time. So, folks, if you get yourself this Metacom Buzz Lightyear, tag me on Twitter. And then I'm going to ask you for a small loan of $1 million since you're spending $600 on a Buzz Lightyear. That doesn't do anything.
You must have money to throw around.
Yeah, join our Patreon page, folks. If you're going to buy Buzz Lightyear, you could buy some better entertainment for just a fraction of that cost. Also, too, if you want something right away and tangible, go to stealingsolo.com, we are getting closer and closer to being out of those books. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I only allowed a certain amount to be sold at the con so I could continue the website, and all but one of those sold. So people like stealing Solo. They're hearing about it on the channel, they're hearing about it out in the real world, and the hype, the buzz is good. The coolest part I didn't tell you is a Marvel artist came over to the table. His name's Alt Baltazar. He's worked for Marvel, he's worked for DC. He's like, hey, I watched your show. Good stuff, man. He's like, let me buy your book. I'm like, oh, of course, Art. So he went over and he bought the book, and he was talking to me on Sunday as we're closing the con. He's like, yeah, I read it. I didn't finish it, but it's funny. So, I mean, like, there you go, folks. That feels pretty cool to that
Laugh
Marvel
out
guy.
loud funny, dude.
Yeah.
That is
I
pretty
never
Best
promote
Star
my
Wars
stuff.
parody since Spaceballs.
I stand by that. We don't have any Seth Rogen in it, though, like Fanboys. So,
That's good though.
That's yeah. I feel like that's actually a credit.
that GameStop movie, though, looks funny. Dumb Money. I'm probably going to see that one on my Regal Pass.
Dumb company.
Oh, yeah.
I worked
you
for them
seen,
for over
No
a
One Will
decade.
Save
I
You
get to
yet?
say that.
What did you say, Script?
Oh, have you checked out on Hulu No One Will Save You?
No, who's in that?
Nobody. But it's a Brian Duffield film about a girl, a young 20-something, who has to fight off an alien invasion of her hometown.
I may add that to my list real quick, because that... Wait, it's already in my stuff.
There you go.
I guess I saw the...
Check it out. I'm dropping a review on my Patreon tomorrow morning for it. It's a brief review because I'm not spoiling it. It's that enjoyable for me that I just want to get people to watch it first before I start doing a spoiler review of it.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I will
High
tell you what I
marks.
think of it. Like when we text each other about Only Murders in the Building, you got to watch this week's episode. It's a good one. But I'll tell you this real quick, since you mentioned Hulu. I have not been this disappointed in a sequel in quite a while, and the film is Vacation Friends. If you know this channel, you know I'm not a fan of John Cena, but you know I'll be honest about everything. And I think John Cena's a good actor, especially in the first film, Vacation Friends. But the sequel is god-awful and, dare I say, unwatchable. I
Oh.
almost turned it off, and I don't turn off movies.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's not funny. It's...
Did it make you want to go back and watch The Marine with John Cena?
Did it make you wish that you couldn't see that movie?
Yes to both of you. The Marine was better. The weirdest place I ever saw The Marine was in a strip club in Miami. For some reason,
What?
they had a TV on in the bar, and then the Marine was on the TV in the bar. I was like, what the fuck, man?
That is unique.
The fact that you paid attention to The Marine and not the strippers at the strip club, that's a problem.
No,
But
when you're
that's okay.
taking, you got to take a lay of the land, and it's like, look, it's run by the Russian mob, so it's one of those like sketchy strip clubs. So I'm like, kind of looking around at all this stuff, and we left because we were in town for WrestleMania, so it's like we couldn't escape John Cena. He followed us to the strip club, type of thing. Another situation where we wish we couldn't see him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, guys, I think we should check in with the audience in a minute, because we have a lot of wonderful people out there waiting to hear what we have to say about their comments, and a lot of super chats have rolled in. So, anything else you guys want to say about Rachel Zegler? I feel like we covered it fairly well and very honestly, if I may say so myself.
Yeah, I think it's important to be honest when we're covering this stuff and not make up bullshit. We're world class here.
Boom. Just remember that, folks. Remember
I will
that.
say, she's now an example to all young talent out there. Don't be like Rachel Zegler, and you will actually have a better chance of an ongoing career, as opposed to just being a blip on the heart monitor. I don't know. I got no mixed metaphor here for you. I'm sorry.
I appreciate
works.
the effort.
She flatlined. There you go.
There it is.
So,
Pretty much, yeah.
let's check in with the audience, folks. I'd like to thank everybody who joins us each and every week here on our live streams. Coming up is Schlocktoberfest, so be on the lookout. The guys and I are going to start recording more. I wanted to upload the stuff for Patreon this weekend, but I had the convention to work, and it was an all-weekend thing. I used yesterday as a recovery day, so I will give you guys the videos of Best Horror Boobs and Best Horror Butts on Patreon this week. And the guys and I are going to celebrate the Killer Clowns from Outer Space 35th anniversary with a very special commentary track. And a bonus episode that'll be hitting. So if you want extra content, folks, make sure you join our Patreon page, patreon.com/worldclassbs. Link is in the description below. So Shrowell's 08 has some more tacos. Dude, where is my blue taco? Well, I don't want to find out. He also asks for a Joe Rogan slap nut and a dookie, please. Well, of course. Here is your first one right now.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
It's Mr. Flatnut to you.
And here's another one.
What's that smell?
Hulk Hogan, true actor's actor.
Dude, Joan Severance in that movie. Whew.
Oh, yeah. Joan Severance is a good-looking lady. I'm sure
She's Black Scorpion.
Yeah. I saw that movie as a kid. That maybe I shouldn't have, but, you know. It was weird.
Probably shouldn't have, yeah.
I could say that probably about a few movies. I was like 8 when I saw Predator 2. No, I was like 7, actually. I had no business watching that movie.
Yeah, but
Granted, my dad didn't know that I was like sitting on the ground, like underneath the arm of the couch late at night when he thought I was asleep and he was watching it on TV.
yeah, well,
I don't think he didn't learn until years later that I had done that, because I watched it and like as soon as the credits started rolling, I got up, walked back into my room, and went to bed.
well, did you
Fucking
at least
Ninja
like
Andrew,
it?
guys. It's okay. I mean,
That's how I feel.
I like Danny Glover. The first one's a billion times better.
Oh, of course.
I will say though, I did really like that Predators, the freaking staff, and I liked the discs. Those are cool.
Now, this is a fun fuck, marry, kill. It's more difficult than I realized, but I'll ask you guys first. Fuck, marry, kill. Batman from '89, Batman Begins, and The Batman.
Oh.
Oh, well, kill the Batman.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that one's easy.
It's the other two. That's tricky because they're both very good in their own right.
Yeah.
Actually, you can't lose with either one. You effing one or marrying the other. You're still good.
I'm gonna marry Batman Begins. Fuck 89. But yeah, the Batman gets killed.
Yeah, I
Fucking
might marry Batman.
Dollar
because
General
I
Zodiac Killer.
really enjoyed not just the soundtrack and the Prince soundtrack for it, but I also
Oh,
really
yeah.
enjoyed Jack Nicholson's Joker in that. Because
It was
it's just
good.
Just Jack Nicholson being unleashed.
It is, but ironically enough, with that, he's probably the most accurate live action Joker that we've had still because of that, and that's really more of I think, an addendum on Jack Nicholson's character.
He is one of the few Jokers in the feature film realm that actually tells jokes that can kind of make you laugh in a very dark and sadistic way.
He's the only one that has even the slightest hint of that whimsy that the Joker needs to have. The Joker isn't just some sadistic cookie cutter serial killer. He's not just a mental case. He's not just a psychopath. There is whimsy and there's a balance to that in order to get the Joker done properly. And while 89 didn't do it perfectly, it did it better than the others that have come since.
And there's something deceptive and
Deceptively?
scary about him at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like you look at him at first, you're like, oh, wait a minute. And whereas when Heath Ledger, no shot against him, even though that's the Dark
His
Knight.
performance was phenomenal.
His performance is phenomenal, but you look at him, you're
character
like,
just wasn't
okay,
the
I already know this is someone that's going to hurt me. Like
Yeah.
right away, there's no doubt there. With Jack Nicholson, you can air a little bit of doubt before he does that creepy smile, and you're like, nope, I'm running away.
The difficult part is I have the emotional attachment to Batman '89, but when I saw Batman Begins in theaters, I had never been so excited by a Batman movie. And the ending, when he meets Commissioner Gordon on the roof, and he's like, "Oh, we got this guy. He's got a flair for the theatrics." That ending is so good.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go '89 because I watched '89 about maybe a month ago. And you ever turn on a movie, you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna put this on for background," and you can't look away.
Yeah.
That is how I felt about that one. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna draw and watch Batman. I just watched Batman. I sat there. I was like, man, every scene really means something to me. Even the more mundane shit, I'm like, I like every part of this movie. And the Danny Elfman score kicks so much ass, especially the one that plays at the chemical plant when the Joker falls in. I just love that music, how it builds and swells to the Batman theme as he fucking comes down on his cape. And they're like, what is that?
That's like the first. That's called First Contact or First Confrontation, I think, on the track list.
Yeah, something along those lines, and I love it because it's got the strings that do 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 do, and it keeps building and building. It's so good. On the way back from the convention the other day, I had a couple people I was driving home, and the music that plays in the Batmobile as he's driving Vicky Vale to the Batcave came on in my car, and I turned it up really loud, and I gassed up my Jeep. Yeah, I was going 80 when I shouldn't have been going 80, but I was zooming on the highway to that music, and we were just like all feeling it. So
that would be funny if you get pulled over by the cops and like, do you know how fast you're going? I'm sorry, sir. I was listening to some Batman music on my stereo. He's like, no, what? Never mind. You can free to go.
I would love that so much. Oh, I'm sure there are cool cops out. Look, if I was a cop and somebody was driving a DeLorean at 88, well, you can't take it 88, but if you broke the speed limit in DeLorean and I was the cop, I'd let you go. I'd be like, are you trying to travel through time? And if you had the nerve to say, yes, I was, then I'd let you go with a warning.
Don't let me catch you doing that again.
Yeah. I'll see you in the future or the past. Thank you, Xavier to God. We have Zach Z, who is a new member of the channel. Zach Z, thank you very much for becoming a member of the channel, and thank you for being a long-time listener. See you here each and every week. Now, I think we're being trolled from above. Taylor Swift, greater than Star Wars, says... This year had Barbenheimer, Mario Brothers, Sound of Freedom, throw in the Swift concert film. That's not enough to carry the year versus any year in the 1980s.
Correct.
Yeah. 1985 is a wonderful year was a wonderful year for film. That is... I know everyone says, what is it, 82 had The Thing and E.T. and all of those like that.
Yep, they did. It also had Wrath of Khan and Tron and...
That rhymed.
Yes, it did. 85 had Back to the Future.
Fletch, A View to a Kill. Breakfast Club. Here's the one I wanted to make sure it had. Return of the Living Dead. That's my favorite zombie movie. That movie kicks ass too.
Oh, right. That's the one with the graveyard scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Linnea Quigley, she has no pants on.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the full story of that scene?
I don't believe so, no.
So, you know the scene in question.
Yes.
But originally, she takes off her pants, and they're like, maybe we should make her shave. And then they do, but they're uncomfortable because they say it looks too weird on film. So they give her a prosthetic codpiece to wear. So everyone thinks that she's actually dancing naked. She was willing to do this shot, but because of her shavedness, it was weird to the executives. So that's a prosthetic vagina.
When was this movie made?
1985.
It's 80s. Okay, that explains why they would think it's weird for it to be shaved.
Yeah, you think they're like, do a landing strip or maybe a triangle or, something a bit more classy as opposed to just blatant bush.
Oh, look, man.
They should have dyed it red like her flat top.
Oh, maybe I'm more of a product of my generation, but I like a clean working area.
I've never heard it described that way.
You're welcome.
That is the highlight of the show for me.
There's your knowledge dropped, chat. You're welcome. I'll be back next week.
I hope so. Taylor Swift greater than Disney Star Wars. I agree with your screen name and thank you. Brian Tudor, I know this guy. He says, Jason Takes Manhattan is the best horror movie.
I still think that needs to be remade as a musical on Broadway.
What?
Jason Takes Manhattan, sign me up. If I can help produce that film, I will.
Wait, is that the actual name of a movie?
Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan.
Yep.
Hold on. I'm actually looking this up because that's so ridiculous. I don't actually believe you.
I'm pretty sure it came out in 1989.
I believe you're correct there, sir. And it takes place mostly, I think, on a dock instead of
on
actual
Manhattan.
On a boat instead of actual Manhattan Island, yeah.
Yeah, they don't even get to Manhattan until the fucking end of the movie.
Jesus, tap dancing Christ, you weren't lying.
Why would we make that up, dude? The best kill in the movie is this black dude is trying to box Jason on the roof of a building, and he's getting his punches in, and Jason's starting to fall. You know, he's starting to stagger. You think he's going to fall off the roof, and then all of a sudden, with one uppercut, Jason knocks the dude's head off, and it flies into a dumpster, and then the lid shuts.
Yep.
Oh my god!
In the trailer, when I first saw the trailer as a kid, you see basically a wide shot of Manhattan Island. Then Jason's head pops up, and then he turns around. And for a split second, I'm always hoping he pulls out a microphone and just starts singing like show tunes, but never happens because it would be so on point for a fun Jason. Like, he doesn't speak, but he never. There's nothing that says he couldn't sing.
Jason probably has a great singing voice. That's the
And he
movie
just
too.
kills
is-
everyone else on stage in clever ways in a musical.
I would watch that actually. That'd be a great episode of like an Only Murders in the Building style show.
John Waters would be perfect to direct something like that too.
I met him at a Starbucks once. He was really friendly.
Yep, he's one of the best people out there. And that's not really in Hollywood. Like, does Hollywood stuff, indie stuff, but lives in Baltimore, very grounded, flamboyant. But he's definitely he's I would say he's a fairly positive role model when it comes to encouraging and getting people to do what they want to do to make their life meaningful. I haven't heard a bad story about him.
No, I haven't either. And his movies are out there, but
Yes, they most certainly are.
I like some of them though.
Can't
I'm not
believe
gonna
how
act like I
many of
dislike
these things they made.
them. Oh, Friday the 13th?
Like,
They made
Like
what,
one a
11
year
of them?
every year for almost a decade and straight.
that's I don't even.
But Andrew, there are more Halloween movies than there are Friday the 13th movies. Friday the 13th didn't make it to number 13. Halloween did. And they just announced that they're trying to do more now.
Fuck me dry.
Yeah, Miramax
Well, they
got
had
the
an
rights
issue with
back.
the rights for a long time, and I think it's been finally sorted out.
Well, Halloween?
No,
Friday
Friday the
13th.
13th.
Well, yeah, the lawsuit was the writer Victor Miller claimed that he created Jason.
Yes.
And he won. So that kind of the thing that sucks though is while he won the lawsuit, I'm always happy for writers to get what they deserve. His lawsuit killed the Friday the 13th video game, which was hugely successful and was constantly supported by the developer. So while it's good for him that he's going to do something or hopefully do something with it, it killed like the best Friday the 13th thing ever. So
Yeah, I think that's his own arrogance and the fact that he probably didn't understand the technology or the distribution of merchandising for it. Because even if he won it, he definitely could have put a stipulation where it's like, just give me a piece of that game and you guys keep making it.
he should have done that.
Should have done that, yeah.
TLJ Screwjob, thank you for your very generous super chat. He says, "Script, don't forget Michael sending Willie, Willie Sitchi, to look after Connie because Joe Spinelli played Mr. Gazzo. I wish people did the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but with actors in different movies."
Yeah, you could do that. I like thinking that the former president of Wayne Enterprises in Batman Begins ended up becoming Hobo with a shotgun. Because it works.
too.
He loses his job and becomes a hobo with a shotgun.
Oh man,
Rutger Hauer, great.
but on the way to becoming a hobo in a shotgun, he was a hitcher trying to get his way across the country.
Exactly. There's your trilogy right there.
Written here on the High Council, folks. Hollywood, send us a check.
Still better than Disney Star Wars.
That's our game, and at the end of the day, everything is better than Disney Star Wars. But I would play 6 Degrees of Separation here on the channel, folks. If you want to start next week, or maybe throw at least just one, not too many today, like you could say, like, link this actor to that actor, and we'll see if we can do it within 6 degrees without Googling it, because that's the fun part. If we sit here and Google it...
Is it actor or is it character to character? Like same actor playing two different characters in two different movies.
Okay, I like that a lot more, actually.
Because that's also creative, too, because it's now like, okay, could we do a 6 Degrees of... as we said, Mary. Wait, is it Mary or is it Connie? Connie. God, why am I? I'm tired. Sorry. Connie. Why am I? I can't believe I'm forgetting Corleone. Jesus, Connie Corleone to Adrian Balboa, and how that works.
I like that one. Yeah, folks, send in some fun ones or ask us to do it. We'll come up with something cool. Thank you, though, TLJ Screwjob. Again, he says, is Riggs being related to the Patriot plus Wallace? Or i.e., Riggs being related to the Patriot plus Wallace. Okay. So, William,
yeah.
so you're telling me is Martin Riggs is a descendant of William
The guy in
Wallace?
the Patriot, and the guy in the Patriot is a descendant of William Wallace.
There we go.
That's cool.
Wow.
And you know what? If Martin Riggs stays in L.A. long enough, it'll look just like Mad Max, so he'll have to just escape the dystopia.
Then Mad Max is a descendant of Martin Riggs.
There we go. Modalicious says, I'd like a new Major Dad, but it'll suck.
I remember
Well,
that show.
I want to try to, real quick, to go back to our point about linking characters together. I want to figure out a good way to link, like, Brendan Fraser in... You could do the Mummy to George of the Jungle, like, you know, his grandson got left in the jungle type of thing. But I want to do Encino Man to George of the Jungle. But that would be kind of hard, because he's just unthawed in the 90s, or just thawed in the 90s, so doesn't have time to do that one.
Yeah, it's a little bit trickier, because Brendan Fraser has a bit more auteur filmography in his more recently, or at least since Encino Man, George of the Jungle, and the Mummy series. Well, one thing you might be able to do is maybe his character from the Mummy series is then played by Christopher Walken in Blast from the Past.
I like that movie.
That's their kid. I don't know. That's a little bit trickier, because it's like, okay, now we're doing generational things, and that can work in some cases, but also it's like actors in movies within the same 10 years that are really just new. They're just taking new identities from one movie to the other. And I think it'd be funny. It's like, yeah, maybe if Martin Riggs ends up actually becoming Mad Max because of Lorna Cole gets killed and his daughter's gone, he's blown up and he gets his leg injured, and he's actually just Martin Riggs because he was a cop in the first Mad Max. And now he's a lone cop, man on his own, bringing justice to other neighborhoods looking for gas.
He still talks to Danny Glover's spirit, even though he's dead.
Yep.
Thank you, Modalicious. TLJ Screwjob says, Star Wars Episode 7, Heir to the Empire trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got Star Wars Ahsoka, Heir to the Empire.
Oh, I know some diehard EU fans that would probably turn to voodoo and make a voodoo doll to spite you for that.
Well, I hope not. I don't want to die. I just want to ride my motorcycle.
Okay.
Up next, Xavier to God says, what was worse, Green Lantern or Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer? I vote Green Lantern.
Yeah, totally Green Lantern. You at least have a good cast in Fantastic Four.
They were both really bad.
They were.
But I'll be honest, I can rewatch Green Lantern as a guilty pleasure, despite it being bad. I don't know if I could ever go back and watch Rise of the Silver Surfer again. I really don't. I could probably rewatch the first one of the Fox ones. If I had to. But I guess I would have to say the Fantastic Four one for me. They're both so bad. They're both so bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Neither of those movies had any business being made and released in the state that they were.
That state is California. Anyway, thank you, Xavier to God.
That's everything.
MJ1 Media says, how was Martin Riggs? He had a death wish.
Oh yeah, for the TV series. Yep. That would be cool. That's why the ring chose me. He had no fear because he was ready to die.
I was born ready to die. That makes no sense. Anyway, Modalicious says, all this woke shit is going to eventually be looked back with the same, if not more cringe, as The Wiz, minus the fondness.
It's a fad. I mean, that's for sure. It's just it was just a lot stronger than anyone ever expected it to be.
Yeah.
We also have our friend, by the way, thank you, Modalicious. TLJ Screwjob, what's up? He says, speaking of Superman script, can we, blame The Dark Knight for effing over DC and not giving us Cavill as Superman because Henry Cavill never got to?
It's really complicated there because when they finished Batman Begins, Warner Brothers was banking on Brandon Routh being the Superman to pair up next to Christian Bale with Superman Returns.
And that movie didn't do well.
It did not, it did okay, but it didn't do well enough because just like with The Flash, Superman Returns had all of the development deal production from way back when to when Christopher Reeve was alive and ready to do Superman 5 until he broke his back. And then they started trying to do Superman Lives with Nick Cage and Tim Burton and all those things. All those years of production, that decade plus, were rolled into the expense report for Superman Returns. And as a result, after everything it took back, it didn't make any money. And so they kind of went into limbo. And at the same time, the Siegel family raised a point of contention with Warner Brothers regarding the Superman film rights. And so they had to rush into in production another Superman film in order to retain them. That's how we got Man of Steel. One of the reasons Christopher Nolan was attached as a producer is because Warner Brothers really loved what he was doing with The Dark Knight, and they wanted to ride that wave of credibility from his name, even though Nolan had no interest in actually making a Superman film. In fact, he basically said after he did The Dark Knight, he never wanted to make another comic book movie again. And true to form, he did with The Dark Knight Rises. That was definitely not a comic book movie. But he had his own. He put his name on that so he could get basically a couple of blank checks to do his own features for Warner Brothers. And I think for him as a career move, that was a good trade-off. But yeah, we sadly never got to see Henry Cavill actually be the Man of Steel, the type of hopeful, cheerful Superman. And we also never really got to see him as proper reporter Clark Kent either.
No, we didn't get to see either, honestly. And he could have played both. He could have. You just give him the script, give him the direction, let him do his thing. Cavill's a legitimate geek. He wanted nothing more than to actually bring that hopeful character of Superman to the big screen, and he never got the opportunity.
And because of that, that's what we found out. That attitude is what we found out was the difficult nature that was brought up when it came to working with him on the set.
He wanted to remain true to the characters as a fan.
Yep.
Thank you, TLJ Screwjob. Modalicious says red and blue blur equals calmness, unless it's Homelander.
Yeah.
That show can't come back soon enough. Oh, please.
Should be premiering in late October.
Well, October's going to be awesome. I have a birthday, going to Vegas, got the boys now. Can't ask for anything more. What is the scariest Homelander moment for you? Like, for me, was when he's on that airplane and he just is like staying calm and then he's like, lets everybody die essentially. I was like, geez, man, this guy's fucked up.
Wow, I haven't watched The Boys yet, so
Oh, you're missing out, man.
I think when he freaked out when the girl who was going to jump was not grateful that he was there to save her. That was creepy.
Oh, yeah.
His birthday save, yeah.
But, dude, Anthony Starr is a great actor. He is so good in that role.
Really good in that role. Really good in everything he does, yeah.
He's so good in that I don't know if I would ever even, like, you see somebody famous. I mean, it's a little different for you, but, like, let's say there's a celebrity out there. You're like, man, I like this guy. I would say hey to him on the street just in a very friendly way. I don't think I'd ever talk to Anthony Starr because Homelander's creepy. Like, too creepy for even me to want to talk to.
He might be, but if you saw him in his street clothes and you said, hey, I guarantee you, Anthony would be like, hey, how you doing? I don't think
he's not going to be Chris Jericho and always in character.
Yeah, that guy can. Jericho, this is directly at you. Just cut that shit out. We get it, but kayfabe's been dead, and you just come off as a dick.
Yeah, like that's one of the things I kind of figured out when interacting with actors. As long as you don't call them out by their direct name and say I want something, and just say hey, how are you, and just try to move along, chances are they might respond in kind or even start a conversation because you're not trying to interrupt their day. You're just trying to be polite. And those are two different things. And I mean, that's why I always appreciate when actors are publicly and they say, listen, if you see me out with my kids, just do a quick hi, but please don't try to bother me. I'm trying to spend time with my kids. I don't, sometimes actors don't get to do that because they're on set all the time or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And they also make accommodations where it's like, listen, I'm going to be at these conventions or this place here is doing signing. That talk to my ears off if you can on those parts, but not when you're in public, with friends and family and whatnot. And I learned that when I'd be at airports or walking down the street, I'd see a celebrity, be like, hey, their first name, I hope you're doing well, and then just move on. They'll be like, thank you, have a good day, whatever, and that's all you need. And they do remember that stuff. Like they remember that more, and they remember it more of a pleasant thing as opposed to doing something where we all laud certain celebrities and justifiably show because they earned that respect with us. But sometimes when you show them too much praise, it can either A, go to their head and then they become arrogant, or B, make them feel very insecure, and then they end up kind of breaking the trust that they've built as a performer for you. And
that veneer.
Both things they don't want to have with that. So
well, if I ever meet CM Punk, I won't gush. I'll just give him the finger. Sorry, that guy sucks. Anyway, John Thomas says, go to see Retirement Plan, an okay dark comedy. Cage being Cage. Social commentary falls flat, but ignorable. Thoughts, Script Doctor?
Ooh, I haven't seen Retirement Plan. I'm going to put that on a list.
Not a huge. I'm assuming he
Don't
means
say
Nicolas
it.
Cage.
Don't you dare say it. I mean, I wear a T-shirt with that man's face on it all the time. That's not a joke.
Like, look, I like some of his movies, but I'm not gonna. He's not a selling point. Let me put it that way. If somebody says it's got Nicolas Cage in it, it's like, okay, but what else?
Dude, every other movie is at a disadvantage because it doesn't have Nicolas Cage in it.
No, you're confusing. You're confusing him with Michael Keaton.
Nicolas Cage could play a great James Gordon.
Yes, he could.
You would want to see that.
I buy that. Yeah.
I mean, Nicolas Cage has made a bunch of wonderful films. He's made bad movies, but he's also made stuff like Face Off and Bad Lieutenant 2, Port of Call, New Orleans, which...
I recently saw this... What the fuck was that movie called? It's some Friday night... Five Nights at Freddy's knockoff movie, basically, with him in it. And he just plays this silent protagonist that literally never says a fucking word throughout the whole movie. And he's just killing these, like, demonically possessed... kind of circus type animatronics, like Five Nights at Freddy's type stuff. And I was at the end of the movie, I was like, what did I just watch? What even is this? Why is this?
Well, you asked all the important questions, but I'm going to add that to my list too, because Nicolas Cage is a selling point to me. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. That was a movie I fucking loved last year.
That was brilliant.
When they were high on cocaine trying to get around that wall.
I can't.
It's like, I'll give you $20,000 for these. It's like, no, they're just... It's like, this is
That's
sick.
a celebrity I'd love to party with as Nicolas Cage. Maybe not even like party with, but just like hang out for a full day and just see how weird it could get.
Yep.
I'm down for anything. TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much, says, a la White Goodman in Dodgeball, why wouldn't he be arrogant? My gym makes $4 million a year. Yours doesn't make 4. Love Dodgeball. Great movie.
Brilliant movie.
It's like the great comedies are few and far between. In the last 25 years, or let's just say 23 years, since the year 2000, we've had some of the all-time great comedies. But I don't think we've had a really great comedy since, or in the last decade. Everything else has just been kind of like
between
stupid.
2013 and now. Yeah, I can't think of anything that was ridiculously like funny that really tracked.
I mean, you had 22 Jump Street, which I like. I don't like it more than the first one, but
was that in 2014?
I think so. Yeah. The first one's 2012 for sure.
Yeah.
Loved that movie.
Maybe one of the Cornetto films was probably after 2013.
Did you like At World's End? I didn't like that one.
At World's End, that's the one I was thinking of. I can't remember it, so I probably didn't like it as much because I loved Hot Fuzz and I loved Shaun of the Dead.
Yep. Hot Fuzz is. I mean, I talk about Hot Fuzz with my buddy Dan all the time. We just quote it back and forth. I have a fucking Nicholas Angel t-shirt. I love that movie. It is the biggest waste of money on 4K, though. Just want to put that out there. It looks exactly like the Blu-ray. So, folks,
Oh, that's important.
I always tell you to upgrade. Maybe not Hot Fuzz.
I mean, I
Point Break
can't
or
see
Bad
why
Boys
that
2?
movie would actually benefit from it anyway.
Which one you want to watch first?
Exactly.
Well, Andrew, I just love my movies, so I got to get the best versions of all my favorites. That was the Big Lebowski
Fair.
looks really good.
That's fair.
Not Hot Fuzz. Thank you though, TLJ Screwjob. John Thomas says, I enjoyed Expendables 4, but it also was kind of lame, and I'm not buying Megan Fox as an action hero.
I don't buy
Yeah, me
Megan
neither.
Fox as an actress.
I barely buy her as a woman nowadays. She's so
Oof.
surgery
Oh.
altered.
Be honest, it's the gorilla thumbs, isn't it?
I haven't paid attention to the thumbs. I might have
Yeah.
to.
Actually,
Google
I completely
Google
forgot
Megan
about
Fox
that.
thumbs.
I really don't. Okay, I'll do it right now. I don't want to, but
They're like Florence Pugh's boobs, as you
ooh,
Oh,
oh my God!
well,
said. Are you looking at them now?
I'm looking at all the pictures of it. It's like, where's the rest of it?
Yes. Megan Fox has weird thumbs.
this much is true.
They're like toes.
Yeah.
Maybe they are toes. I don't know.
Nobody's perfect, but I would not watch Megan Fox as in anything. She was hot and was in a bunch of shit like 20 years ago. Well, close to 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But she wasn't a good actress, and that's what we're supposed to judge all these people on, is their talent and their skill. She was not that. I wish her the best of luck. I don't have anything bad to say about her personally because I don't know her, but I'm not going to go watch anything she's in.
She's not a draw for the reasons that you need someone to be a draw in a movie.
Exactly. But John Thomas, thank you very much. We'll be playing our box office game on the podcast this week, and we'll see which bullshitter was closest without going over in terms of the Expendables 4 box office. You also have a request, or John Thomas has a request for another one and a Horse Girls. Of course, we'll give you what you want here on World Class Bullshitters each and every week. So, here is your first button.
Who are you? What are you doing here, and where are my horses?
That's still creepy, and we're getting
That's-
closer to Halloween.
That's never not unnerving.
Well, this one's unnerving to some people for another reason, but, well, I don't find that a problem.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one.
All right, any more, and he'll be deader than disco. Oh, wait, he already is. TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much. He says, when Jeff gets lonely, he thinks of James Bond. Yes, I think of all those wonderful adventures that I would rather be on than be sitting around doing nothing. Like the Swiss Alps. Or, that beautiful monastery in Greece. James Bond's been to the best places on Earth.
Yep. One of these days, you have to do like the Bond World Tour.
I want to. I'm pretty sure I've been to every... this isn't a really impressive feat, but if there's ever been a James Bond film shot in America, I've been to those locations. So I got something, to say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I live close to Kentucky, so Fort Knox is not really a faraway location. Been to New Orleans, been to New York, been to California, been to, San Francisco and all that stuff. So
You already mentioned Miami. He's been there. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I love Miami. I've been on the causeway that's in License to Kill, so I've been to the actual shooting locations from License to Kill. But, yeah, I would like to do a James Bond world tour. I've been to Spain, but I haven't been to Bilbao, Spain, so that was a little different than Madrid. But it was still beautiful. TLJ Screwjob, thank you again. He says, "Script. When do you think? Do you think Zaslav will / even can say in a quarterly call after Aquaman 2 comes out? Glad that's over. Now it's on to the new administration."
No, because you're not going to get that. Oh, I'm not script. Never mind.
No, you're actually kind of.
I'm thinking out loud. Contractually, they're not going to talk shit about their own product.
Yeah, you're thinking in sync. What he'll say is, with the conclusion of the previous regime of DC films slated from 2023, we are now ready to embark on a brand new slate of DC films for 2025. Like, he's going to say something like that.
Yeah, we're like super excited for, or something like that. We got a lot down the pipeline. Or they're going to like just try and like word it in a way where it's like, all right, that's over.
Would not put it past them to have a snide remark saying that that slate of DC films was something from the previous regime, and as a result of this new management that he has taken on, he's learned from all of their mistakes so that they won't be repeated in their new venture as they go forward with their acquired IPs that they've had for years and the new stuff that they plan to produce. I've listened to enough of his earning calls so I probably can predict some of his text to a reasonable approximation. But it's I'm looking forward to that quarterly and earnings call in 2024 post Aquaman 2. Because that's going to be something.
Okay. I buy that. I'm here for it. It'd be nice and refreshing, honestly, to hear that. You're never going to get that level of I don't even know if that qualifies as humility, because I guess it could be kind of described as transparency. I don't think humility would necessarily be the right word for it, because Zaslav had piss all to do with those projects anyway. Yep. So it's not like he's necessarily directly accepting responsibility for their piss poor performance. But it'd be nice for them to be like, hey, there were mistakes made in the past. We've chosen to learn from them. We hope you get excited about what we've got coming up. Just all we as fans really need is just a little bit of respect, a little bit of appreciation.
Some TLC, man.
Just a little bit of like, this is all Brie Larson had to do it still wouldn't have been a good movie, but all she had to do was just put on a charming smile and say just a little bit about the movie and be like, and I hope everybody comes see Captain Marvel in theaters on blah, 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 blah date, I hope everybody has a good time. That's it. That's all you had to do.
She started off very strong before all those things, because on her social medias and stuff, she was actually reading Ms. Marvel comics and making little quotes like, wow, I can't wait to actually do some of this stuff. And she'd add pictures and panels next to her and everything. And then all that kind of vanished, oddly enough, as we got closer to the date where she started doing those speeches and talking smack about other artistic films and things that should have performed well, at least from her perspective, but didn't. It was really quite an about face. And Captain Marvel was such a disappointment for me, because I was really hoping for something more in line to not just Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon adaptation, which did a banger of a job, but also some of the other stuff that was done in the 80s with her character. And we got nothing like that at all. And then the next thing is like, okay, we're doing Monica Rambeau. Well, I vividly remember how Monica Rambeau was introduced. There's no way they're going to do that. So, geez, that's a waste.
Yep.
Here we are.
Well, we need just a little bit of respect. Just show us you're excited for the project. Get us excited for the project. This is not rocket science. It's really not. It's too much to ask, evidently.
From them, yes, of course. TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much. Says, Script, how do Kurtzman and Hirsch's keep getting chances with things they make being so unpopular / unsellable? Is it a connection, or things like Velma being low enough cost for a season 2?
Okay. So with Kurtzman and his ilk, especially J.J. Abrams, they have a huge reputation still in the Hollywood entertainment industry. It is fracturing significantly over the last few years, but it's taking a long time, because the state of California, just like with a lot of other states, but it varies mostly in California, is that they're in their own bubble, which is filled with even more bubbles. And they have a lot of filters in place around to prevent bad news from making it to the ears of themselves, let alone the ears of people that can actually determine their employment. So that is why it takes a long time for bad eggs to be excised out of the industry, or at least reset to a point where they have to kind of work their way up again. When it comes to things for Kurtzman over at Paramount and the handling of Star Trek, Paramount doesn't seem to have anyone at their head office that understands the franchise and its potential. And so they're just happy to hand it off to him because he's taking care of it for them so that they don't have to think about it. And even though it's not performing in a stable market like it used to for 28 years between 87 and 2005, it's being taken care of, and they're able to hold on to it for whatever reasons. And it's really just fear, arrogance, and ignorance. When it comes to something like Velma, cartoon shows, especially the ones that have been produced recently, they usually sign a minimum of a 2-season deal, and they just spread that out for distribution purposes. So, for instance, a television show like, speaking of Star Trek Lower Decks, they technically record the first two seasons in one recording session. They write in one writing session to get all those episodes out, and then it goes into production, which in animation, which takes many months to do. And they get their first 10 done, and while those are being aired, they're finishing up on the back 10, and then that's your quote unquote season 2, when it's really just treated like one season of actual work. That's how they're doing it. Same thing happened with Velma. They pitched it. The people who greenlit it, which happened before Zaslav took over, they greenlit it for quote unquote 2 seasons, which is really just 20 episodes, which is normally a regular season order for a cartoon show. And they just spread out its distribution. So they did all the recording probably a year and a half ago. And they've been animating it ever since, and then getting it all cut together and laid out for distribution. So last year was season 1. I think they're doing season 2 this year. I don't expect there to be a season 3 or 4 because season 1 did not perform well. And because season 2 is already paid for, they might as well release it. Maybe they might get some subscriber numbers in it, or maybe they might be able to license it out to an AVOD streaming service and make some money off of it. But at least it's not going to be, sitting on a shelf somewhere. Or the other part too, because they distributed the first half of it, they can't write off the second half, a la Batgirl, because they've already distributed the first part of that contract. It's already been honored. So yeah, it's that. It's also connections. Connections are very valuable. Some of them are nepotism. Some of them are in favor of just helping out a friend. Some of them are actually end up being really beneficial. Like, you could know a lot of really great actors that have worked together before, and they want to work together again, and they just need to find that magic project. And guess what? You as an audience member might really want to see a reunion of some of these people. And it takes a little bit of nepotism in order to facilitate that. So it has its good and bad, but that's just the hectic nature of the industry. There's a reason why William Goldman said nobody really knows anything. It's because we're all still trying to figure it out, because it changes so quickly. And you never can predict the future anyways.
If we could, we'd be very, very, very rich men.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Our friend Georgian says opinions on Mark Millar's comments stating that DC, Marvel, and independent comics only make up 9% of the U.S. comics market, and then has a request for a button. I did see this. Is he saying that is manga the rest of the market right now? Because that's
probably
crazy if that's
manga
the case.
and French comics.
Are French comics doing that hot in the U.S.? I didn't realize that.
I see a lot of them. I mean, I don't know about the U.S. I see a lot of them in Canada. But, we're a bilingual country, so it makes sense to have some French comics over here. But I wouldn't be surprised for manga. I mean, their output is obscene compared to Western comics. So,
well, those guys really chain themselves to their desks. A lot of people don't realize the cultural differences in the creators. We have the work-life balance in the U.S. They don't. This is just...
Your life is work.
The manga cause? Yeah, dude, those guys freaking die young because they work themselves to death.
Yeah, it's... I'm happy to be a part of the art form, but I don't think you can create good stuff with that kind of stress and pressure. But maybe that's just me. But yeah, it's hard to believe that Spider-Man and Superman and Batman only make up that little of a percentage, but independent comics are where it's at, so that's where the new ideas will always come from. Because eventually, with a glut of anime and manga, even that stuff will become tiresome. Too much of anything eventually becomes monotonous. So even the stuff we're clamoring for right now, if it's done for too long, maybe even poorly for too long, you'll be ready to see it go.
Well,
then
people need
what's old
fresh
is new
stuff
again.
eventually.
Yes, exactly. And here is the button that you requested. Now, folks, this one's a little loud, so be prepared.
Who's that Pokemon?
John Cena!
You do suck, Cena.
He's lost a lot of weight.
I was just going to comment on how thin he is. It's weird to see him on TV because he's got a neck now.
Yeah.
What happened? Get sick?
Oh, no,
Oh,
he's
he-
thinning down for acting.
Yeah.
I guess he was just too bulky. But then The Rock keeps getting bigger and bigger because there's that joke about when a Samoan hits 40 and then it has a picture of Rikishi. And The Rock's like, hold my beer.
Well, he looks more trim right now. At least when I saw the clip from him being on SmackDown a few weeks back. He looked more trim than he did back in, what was it, 2012, 13? Whatever it was that he was actually prepping to wrestle Cena. And when they did the tag team match against Miz and R-Truth, he looks more trim than he did then. Oddly, maybe it's just me.
I mean, maybe it's with age. His voice sounds weird. That's the part that threw me off. I was like, oh, man, The Rock's got old man voice. Shit.
Oh, he's kind of got a graveliness to it.
He smokes a lot of cigars.
Does he really?
Rock.
I've heard, yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
I haven't seen it, but I've only heard. That's the thing, right?
Don't kill yourself, Dwayne, please. Spare.
Whenever someone calls him Dwayne, I'm like, who's Dwayne? Oh, you mean The Rock. Got it. He's always The Rock around this household. His first name is Agent Coulson's first name is Agent.
His first name is Agent, yes.
That's the only time a superhero movie being that funny was amazing. Other
Yep.
than that, I rolled my eyes a little bit at each one. So, our friend TLJ Screwjob's back with Lightyear 2 about the world's greatest superhero becoming the world's greatest toy. Also, Hercules in the middle after the Hydra fights 1/12 of the fight/12 trial montage. That's the only part of the Hercules movie I like. I didn't really like Hercules as a kid. I was in the rare minority. Because we
The
all
Lou
enjoyed
Ferrigno
it.
one?
No, the Disney one.
Oh,
The
right.
animated one. I enjoyed it as a kid.
I didn't. I mean, and then Mulan was the last one I ever saw in theaters, and then I thought I was too old for Disney.
That's fair. That's fair.
John Thomas, thank you very much. He says there is a boys spin-off where apparent superpowers. There is a boys spin-off where one's apparent superpower is turning into a Muppet. If I understood the trailer, have you guys heard about this?
This is news to me.
Yeah, I've not heard anything regarding this.
Yeah, I have not heard about this, but I will watch boys spin-offs. As long as they don't have any more exploding dicks, I'll be happy. Because that
Oh,
one,
God. Yeah, let's not get back to that.
yeah, cocaine will do a lot of terrible things to you.
Evidently,
The fact that they built that giant thing.
Man, The Boys is fucked up. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I mean, it really is.
But that's why we love it. All right, TLJ Screwjob says 6 degrees of separation. Morgan Freeman, Azim and Prince of Thieves to Speaker, Trumbull, and Olympus Has Fallen.
His character in Driving Miss Daisy bridges that, generation-wise.
I don't have enough film knowledge to be able to pull that out of my ass.
Okay, so what year would Robin Hood be in?
1300s.
1300s. Okay.
So
I could do Glory, because then you could do the Civil War. That's 1800s, but
that's pretty close. Yeah,
is Morgan Freeman a period piece actor though?
rarely.
I got nothing. I know I like Morgan Freeman. That is
Morgan
my
Freeman.
contribution here.
I mean, he played God in Bruce Almighty,
Bruce
so
Almighty,
he can just appear anywhere if you want.
There you
That's
go.
it. That's it. He's God.
He's omnipresent. There it is.
While we're on the topic of the subject, what is your favorite Morgan Freeman movie?
Oh.
I think 7, maybe.
Honestly, it might be when he played God. I like him in any role that I've seen him in, but I really liked him in that role.
I like him in 7. I like him also in Shawshank Redemption as Red.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's honestly the one that I expected you to say.
I know, but I mean, Shawshank Redemption is a very different type of film, but I like 7 because of I like the mystery format of it and the problem solving and the jaded cop versus the hopeful one, and yeah, there's lots going on there. That's a tough one, man. Yeah.
7. That's such a good movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the director's most of his entire filmography. It's just my type of movie. So, Xavier God says Friday the 13th, rank 1. So Jason Lives, the final chapter, new beginning. Freddy vs. Jason, New Blood, 3D. Friday the 13th, 2009. Jason X, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell. I say those are your rankings, Xavier to God. Okay, you want me to rank them, guys? I'll bite the bullet on this one since Andrew, you haven't seen anything past the first, and Script, you have too good of taste to have watched all these shitty movies. So
I've definitely watched all of them. I just don't remember which titles go to which story.
I did not grow up watching Friday the 13th. I caught them all on Spike TV when I was a little older and just kept watching them. So I'm gonna rank my favorites as 6, 7, 2, Jason X, then the remake, then part 3, then the then 3, then 1, then Jason Takes Manhattan, then Jason Goes to Hell, and then Jason Part 5, Jason, The New Blood. I hate that fucking movie with a passion. And if you count Freddy vs. Jason, you could put that at the top of the list because I like Freddy vs. Jason quite a bit. That movie is so dumb.
It is dumb. What really freaked me out is the redhead at the very beginning.
Yeah,
she reminded me of like a very young Annette O'Toole.
I could see that,
and it threw me off. And I was like, "Whoa, wait a second, how'd they find her?" And then they're like, "Oh, they killed her." It's like, "Oh, of course."
I saw that movie on vacation, like the year after it came out, and I was hooked. We were watching on the car ride home. I'm like, man, this movie is cool. It's because before when I was younger, I was like, these movies are kind of scary, but I'm like, this one's like a music video, and I was all on board. So, Freddy vs. Jason for the win. TLJ Screwjob, thank you. He says, in regards to actors in public, one of the Team 4-star DBZ Abridged guys, Landipater, talked about how years ago he saw Bruce Willis out at dinner and had the waiter bring a napkin with a note on him. Says, big fan. Bruce Willis signed it. Steiner math, please. TLJ Screwjob, we're going to make a special exception for you on the Steiner math. We'll give you that one. But that's pretty awesome that he sent over a napkin and Bruce Willis signed it. I like Bruce Willis. I know Kevin Smith would talk shit, and he's not this, Bruce Willis isn't perfect like anybody, but I like his movies, and he seemed cool. He reminds me of my uncle, so I guess that's why I like Bruce Willis.
I liked his movies before he started doing them for a quick cameo of $1 million, and then we find out later he'd been taken advantage of by a producer, and that's why there were so many Bruce Willis movies that came out in the last few years. Because he's officially retired and he's dealing with his
it's aphasia,
brain,
correct?
Yeah, aphasia thing. Yeah,
it's sad. I mean, look, any sickness is sad for anybody. Bruce Willis isn't special in that regard, but it is sad when somebody so public and known a certain way, and you're like, oh, okay, that's the reality of the situation. A lot like with Michael J. Fox, his Parkinson's, but he's done a lot of good with the awareness to the cause, so he never just took it lying down.
And he still goes and interacts with fans and everything. It's
I respect the hell out of him.
Yeah.
He might be one of Canada's greatest exports. Script.
Dude, he is, and never is one to avoid making light of a situation, and that's pretty cool.
Big time. And now, TLJ Screwjob, even though, folks, we keep the Steiner math at a certain amount, for TLJ Screwjob, who sent it all in tonight, of course we're going to do it for you, buddy.
You know, they say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Small Joe, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. And then you add Kurt Angle to the mix, your chances of winning drastically go down. See, the three-way at sacrifice, you got a 33 and a third chance of winning. But I got a 66 and 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. So, Samoa Joe, you take your 33 and a third chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 and a third chance of winning at sacrifice. But then you take my 75% chance of winning, if we used to go one-on-one, and then add 66 and 2/3%, I got 141 and 2/3 chance of winning at sacrifice. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at sacrifice.
Boom! And the match never happened. Oh, Scott Steiner, you are the our new current patron saint. Thank you.
Patron saint of math.
Numbers.
Yes, of numbers. Wait, I should actually make that as a t-shirt. The patron saint of numbers is just Scott Steiner with a fucking math book.
Yep. Get disaster and written in numbers on the back, like across the shoulder.
TLJ Screwjob says, boobs of Pew, body of Godot, thumbs of Megan Fox. Even Frankenstein would say, can you make another bride? This one didn't work out.
Oh, good one. That is good, Screwjob. Good on you.
That is legit. You know, I'm taking a picture of that one. That's fucking funny. I have to bring that up to people I know.
You could Photoshop that and basically just have Boris Karloff talking to Boris Karloff as the monster. Can you try again, please?
You know, if you were going to say Photoshop them, I was going to say to you, just because I can doesn't mean I should. No one should have to see that monstrosity in person. TLJ Screwjob, I'm going to have nightmares tonight thanks to you, buddy. You laugh, I'm not laughing. Now I am. Oh, God. Thank you, though, TLJ Screwjob. Adama, thank you very much for your very generous super chat. Says, hail to the High Council. If I saw the newest Spy Kids movie, or I saw the new Spy Kids movie, sorry, the two exclamations looked like if, and I was like, what? Anyway, I saw the new Spy Kids movie. It sucked. It made the villain a bad guy because of what spies did to his father. The kids teach their parents to be good spies by telling the truth, etc.
That's not being a spy, though.
I wasn't even aware that there was Spy Kids films still being made today.
I thought there was
Robert
only
Rodriguez
like 3,
doesn't.
right? I thought there were only 3.
There's I think there's like 5. And there's also like a sequel to Shark Boy and Lava Girl too. Robert Rodriguez does them because they're quick cash that he can use to try and put into a better movie that he wants to make down the road.
I mean, that's fair. I have aged out of this series a long. Actually, I've never seen Spy Kids.
Neither have I. Even when they brought in Sly Stallone, I'm like, no, I'll skip it.
So I was one of those kids, once I discovered wrestling, I thought I was too cool for any kids' entertainment, so I was just like, I'm watching regular movies now. So I skipped out on anything that was kids related. But I guess I thought, at 13 years old, I thought Spider-Man was for all, for adults too. I was like, yeah, but Spider-Man looks cool.
Right.
13-year-old me was dumb. Anyway. No, it was solid. I haven't seen this Adama, and I'm never going to watch it, but I don't think they get the right idea about how to do villains. I know we've already had the conversation tonight, so I'll spare everyone a rehash of it. But, yeah, it would have watching Spy Kids would have to be like a drunk watch or something for the channel, because I don't think I'd ever want to sit through it. It just, would it really appeal to a 34-year-old guy? I don't think so anymore. I know Dion would like it because he has kids and, he'd have to sit through it, but I mean, I don't know what else to say, guys, about the bad Spy Kids movie. I just, I'm not surprised. But good for Robert Rodriguez if he can make all this money.
Mm-hmm.
What's the last great thing he made? Because he did that Book of Boba Fett episode or two, and those were terrible.
Prior to that was Alita Battle Angel was pretty popular.
Oh, that was his movie?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just remember James Cameron produced it, and I don't remember anything else about it.
James Cameron produced it because he originally wanted to direct it before he directed Avatar, but it was very difficult to get it off the ground. So it's been in limbo, but Robert Rodriguez was able to pull it to the finish line.
Well, that is cool as shit. I like Robert Rodriguez. I still need to see Alita Battle Angel. I got like 5 copies of it on 4K. A listener sent me a dozen copies of it.
I still need to get it on 4K.
Wow. Hey, look, I need to send Script a couple copies of Stealing Solo because I'm late behind that. And Andrew, I'll send you a copy of Alita Battle Angel because the P.O. Box gift said give this to your friends to spread the word about this movie. And so I gave a copy to each of the guys, and I gave a copy to a couple other people I know. So you're one of those people that needs to see it or needs to have a copy.
I'm here for it. I love that movie.
Adama, thank you very much. Our friend Modalicious says, Happy Yom Kippur. Tradition. Well, happy Yom Kippur to you, too. What was it, Rosh Hashanah last week with the honey and the apples? The holiday I liked the most was Passover because you get wasted on wine and sing songs. And if you can't have a good time drinking wine and eating food and singing songs, I don't know if you can have a good time. So
and have lamb?
There was no lamb. What did we eat? We ate brisket.
Okay. Far be it from me to turn down brisket.
Yeah, this was an old recipe too. It was good brisket. I mean, luckily I've never had a homemade brisket that sucked. Everybody knew what they were doing, so be it smoked or made in the oven or made on the stove, they always deliver with the brisket. Adama, thank you very much again. He says, I couldn't believe how spies were crapped on in the movie. The only bright side was the 90s video game-like setting where the main battle takes place. It's me, Austin, please. So, I think that's another problem. Like, spies aren't really the heroes of anything. I don't know why they're trying to all of a sudden, like, I think that's the fault of the movie. Because I always found Bond interesting because he could be considered a bad guy from a certain point of view. He could be the villain from another country's government. And I always like that kind of the gray area with spy stuff. I get it, this is a kid's movie, so it has to be a little more black and white, cut and dry. But are spies the thing in society we need to be worried about? Like, in terms of them, why they're doing it? Like, how do I want to phrase this? Why would you dump on a spy? Spies are necessary. Like, I don't know of a social platform that needs to be anti-espionage. It's kind of a weird platform to have. Do you guys think so?
Yeah, I think that's counterintuitive.
You know, Adama, I went from not going to watch it out of ignorance that it existed to, Spy Kids, I'm definitely going to skip it now.
Wow.
Now, in the other Robert Rodriguez, Shark Boy Lava Girl, isn't that the dude from Twilight, the werewolf?
Yeah. Crap, I can't remember his name, but
that's why I called him the Werewolf Man, because I was like,
Werewolf Man. He's apparently a martial arts master as well.
Wow.
So
he's done something useful with his life.
Yeah.
I guess we're not gonna start any shit talking with him, or Andrew. I think you got it though, man. You got that crazy look in your eyes. You can take him down. Right.
Yeah. Well, I haven't done martial arts since I was a teenager, so
I haven't done them since the 90s when I was I quit in 97, so I was 9 years old when I stopped taking Taekwondo. But I do have 2 state trophies. Maybe one day I'll put them on Instagram as a joke. Well, I don't know why it'd be a joke, but yeah, folks, I'll tell that story another time.
No, put them on Instagram and say I beat adults because they thought I was one at the time. That's how good you are. Just play it up.
That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
That's a good strategy.
Well, Karate Man bleeds on the inside. Troy Neenan, thank you very much, Troy. He says, New Zealand cartoon based on comic, Footroot Flats. Let's look that up.
Interesting.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I haven't either. Let's see. It looks cool, but it's by Murray Ball. And it's about a dog who guards his master and their house from evil inhabitants across the river. Well, that's the plot of the movie. But let's see. I like the comic art. quite a bit. And even the animation art looks pretty cool. Kind of looks like Jim Borgman stuff. I'm going to have to check this out. I have never heard about this until right this very minute. And as you guys know, I have a rule. I will watch anything in animation because I'm a fan of the art form. It's something I can't do and really don't want to attempt to do, but I enjoy it.
That's fair.
Dude, I have the problem of like, not anymore because I've disciplined myself, but when I was younger, I hated drawing the same stuff multiple times. It would be like, you know, you would rough it out and then draw it. But I wouldn't want to rough it out because I'd already drawn it, so I'd try to draw directly to the page, and I would erase and start new pages over and over again. So I definitely couldn't do animation where I have to do constant, you know, redraws.
Yeah.
And now to our pal Adama, I want to thank you for your patience. I forgot, but not for long.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's me, Austin! Oh, son of a bitch!
Yeah, JR.
Good old JR.
Let's see. TLJ Screwdriver says, Script, tell us your Godot story again. 9 days, please.
Oh,
What's 9 days? Anyway, you tell the story. I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries. So my Godot story is so back when I guess she was doing one of the Fast and the Furious films, which would be around 2008, 2009-ish. I've got an assistant job. Got an assistant job with Warner Brothers, but one of our offices was really close to where Universal Studios was, by like Toluca Lake and all that area. And so in one of the buildings that was shared by a lot of the other studios, there were some costume departments in there. And I'm walking through the hall to drop off some stuff, and there's a door open. And from inside the door, I can see a mirror. And in the reflection of the mirror, I think I see a little child naked. And it freaked me out. And I double taked and I realized, oh, wait, no, it's a woman, and it's an adult woman who is naked. And I later learned that was Gal Gadot, being fitted for some costumes for a Fast and the Furious film. And yeah, it was really shocking because I've never seen an adult female body that looked so underdeveloped before. So yeah, that's my Gal Gadot story. I mean, I think she's a beautiful face and she's very charming, just not very curvy, which is nothing wrong with that, I guess, if that's your thing. But when I saw it, I thought I would have to go to police.
There is a naked child over there.
There's a tall, naked child. Yeah.
Adama, thank you very much again. Adama says, the new Spy Kids movie is on Netflix. I only watched it for nostalgia. I watched the originals many years ago when I was younger and enjoyed them. Oh, dude, we were just joking around. There's no judgment that. Like I said, I was just too old. I think the first Spy Kids is, 2002? So, like I said, I thought I was too cool for school. I was watching Spider-Man. I was watching, I guess the first... No, it was 2001. Okay. What was I watching? Well, no, the second one was... Jesus Christ, they came out every year. All right. I definitely missed all those. I missed Spy Kids. I missed Harry Potter. I missed any animated movies that came out in that window. I saw like Spider-Man, James Bond, Collateral Damage, Swordfish, like all within the same window of time. I think I even saw... Did I see Not Another Teen Movie in theaters as a kid? I might have. I don't know, I had cool family members that were like, oh, as long as it's not adult content in like literally the XXX sense, they were cool to let me watch whatever. It never affected me. It's like, oh yeah, they showed boobs in a movie. Cool.
It's just the yellow Power Ranger naked throughout the whole movie. And
I met her once. That was really awkward.
She's a cool lady, and you know what was funny? The reason she did that is because she was told by the director, and everybody stuck to it, which is that the joke is nobody is to actually acknowledge or look directly at her while she's naked. And if you watch that movie, you'll notice that every single person in the background is not staring at her at all, and that's the joke.
How funny.
Well, the reason it was awkward is I met her at a horror con, and she's selling a picture of Areola on her table, so it's just kind of like, oh, all right. Like, if I get an autograph and I pick that one, does that make me weird? Or should I pick the Power Ranger to be safe? Like, that's all I meant. I love that movie, though.
Or just
she
grab
should be
them
very
all.
proud of that body, though. That's a banger.
Oh God, yeah. Have you ever watched not Cabin in the Woods, Cabin Fever?
Yes.
Oh, that scene where she shaves her leg is so gnarly. Oh,
Yeah. Oh.
I need to make a pancakes button for Schlocktoberfest. Andrew, have you seen Cabin Fever?
I have not.
So it's Sean from Boy Meets World
Okay.
and Serena Vincent and a couple other actors, and they go to a cabin where they all get exposed to tainted water. And it's very gnarly. It's an Eli Roth picture. It's crazy. It's funny. But there's this kid who we'll just be kind to say, developmentally challenged. And he can't really speak, but he says the word pancakes. And he I'll just have you watch the scene later, okay? Just watch. I can't explain it to you. There's a fucking karate kick, and never mind. Anyway, you need to see this movie. It's a lot of fun. And to our friend TLJ Screwjob from earlier, what's 9 days? What's the 9 days button? Does anybody in the chat want to tell me? Because I can press that because I do not want to forget that. Let's see. I will have the P.O. box set up. I just keep forgetting. I go to the post office a couple times a week to ship out Stealing Solo, but there's always a line, and they have a special line that they let me go into to drop off my packages. So, yeah, TLJ Screwjob, what is the 9 days button? Can you tell me again? Because I will watch the chat right now. I will happily press it. But, what is 9 days? Sorry, it's late here. It's after midnight. I'm just, trying to figure out which one that is. We got Mitch McConnell, Predator. Oh, Predator's canceled.
The 9 days out of the week between Bubba Ray.
Oh, the Scott Steiner one. Got it. Right here. No problem. Sorry, guys. I was just thrown off.
Okay, listen, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I got freaks 9 days out of the week. I can give them...
There's only 7 days in a week.
Man, you ain't Big Pop. I'm the big bad booty daddy. It's nonstop. Now listen. English. Motherfucker, do you speak it?
What did he just say?
I would be worried if he had a stroke in front of me.
Right?
Oh, good old
gosh.
Scott. I hope he gets an action figure soon. I'll buy a big Papa Pump for the channel. We'll do a review of it.
Do it. I'll be here.
If you buy it for the channel, you can write it off on your taxes as an expense.
I buy all my toys for the channel because I review them on the channel, or I talk about them or use them. So I have a very good accountant / lawyer. So thank you. Not you. I was thanking him out there because he listens to the show all the time. But I got to review Batman Mask of the Phantasm on 4K, folks. I just got that in the mail, and we'll do a little review of that. It's the only home video release to ever have the theatrical aspect ratio, which is the nerdiest thing I've said tonight, and we've talked about some doozies, but I'm really excited to see what the movie's supposed to look like.
All right.
That's the thing. That's why I buy these, all these different versions, because I only buy noticeable upgrades. It's animation looks so much better on Blu-ray than it does DVD. And now with this, it's all of that. So there's a limit. I'll never buy Hot Fuzz in another format. I've learned my lesson.
Was it a lesson hard learned?
I mean, it's a great movie, so at the end of the day, you're still watching Hot Fuzz, and it's Timothy Dalton's best role, maybe ever.
This really hurts.
I'm gonna need some ice cream. Oh, Sissy Skinner. I fucking love that movie so much. Have you ever seen the Last Born movie? Not the Last Born one. I guess the third in the trilogy. At the time, it was the last one. Because that guy that played one of the
Born Ultimatum?
Yeah. The British guy that gets killed in the train station is the guy with the mustache and Hot Fuzz. He's a pretty solid actor. Paddy Considine. Yes, I do get VIP treatment at the post office because I'm nice to the lady that works there. She's very nice to me back. So, and the guy that works at the post office had Deadpool or some comic books people tattooed on his arm. And when I started shipping out the books, because they're whatever special classifications, he's like, "Oh, comics! I like comics." And I was telling him about the channel, so the postman might be listening to WCBS as we speak. Shout out to the postman if you're out there.
That's pretty cool.
How about that?
Yeah. Shout out to all the new people that came to the table at Horror Hound. You guys took a lot of business cards. We were out of those, as well as Wokebusters magnets. So, like I said, folks, it'll be available next con season. If you're a backer, you'll get it earlier, and be on the lookout for that. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we go?
Thanks for listening. Actually, I think it's been a blast as always.
Yeah, I thought we went into some interesting territory tonight.
Absolutely. We always have great conversations. Script, it's always awesome to have you on. The three of us always get along really well and have different perspectives, yet we always somehow manage to meet at a relatively similar conclusion.
Because we're sane.
Right. We're not imbeciles. It helps to have, an IQ that it managed to stretch above and beyond the baseboard, Thank you, chat. As always, you're fantastic. You're the best Tuesday night chat there is. And you're also the best Thursday night chat there is when the guys have their the Thursday night shows. So we appreciate every single one of you for showing up and showing out like you do every week. And I hope you all have an awesome rest of your week.
I second that, folks. Make sure you guys are remaining on the lookout. There we go. Sorry, I'm really tired. Stay on the lookout, folks, because we're going to Florida. And next week, Nick and I will be at Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando. So be on the lookout for that. We have our tickets, we have our hotel, we have our flights. Everything's booked and taken care of. So WCBS will be there on October 7th. That's next weekend, right? Yes. We'll be there on October 7th. You can watch us live from the park for a little while. So come hang out. We'll show you some of the haunts. We'll show you some of the fun that you can have. But make sure you're following WCBS on all platforms because we went to Horror Hound. We've done the Cincinnati Comic Expo. We're doing this. We're going to go to Vegas, and I'll be live tailgating on my birthday from the Michigan State game. So there's just a few things you can check out. But I'm getting ready for 2024 right now. Con season, lining those shows up. So if there's anywhere you're dying WCBS to go, let us know send us an email at worldclassbs@mail.com because that way we can see if, let's say we get 30 emails about people wanting us to go to, let's say, WonderCon, just randomly picking something that maybe we can't even work. But then I'll know the areas to go to with a better turnout. So, if, for example, if somebody wants us to go to Timbuktu, and that's just one email, or, that's not enough. But, shoot us an email to let us know where you want WCBS to go. We're in the travel mode again. We'll be all over the country. And, folks, we want to go to Japan. We're going to find a way to do a WCBS fundraiser so we can send the group to Japan for Star Wars Celebration. Because you want to watch Star Wars Celebration coverage, but you also want to watch me, a giant, interact with the people of Japan. That's
Not
where
giants.
The comedy lies.
Yeah.
No.
Jeff is a kaiju for them, all right?
And a gaijin. I'm okay with that. I'm a kaijin. That's my new name.
There it is. Chat, make sure you're emailing them, telling them that you want them to go to Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's where I'll be living next year.
Let me know about tables. I'll go to Dallas. Fuck it.
Hell yeah.
All right, folks. Well, be on the lookout for more content. I'll be making some videos and taking care of business as usual. Wokebusters is getting closer and closer. And as soon as I'm done, I'm having a big party to celebrate. So hopefully you hang out with us and join us then. But until then, folks, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for real